And we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Martina, can you please do a roll call?
Certainly. And then at this time, I just want to reiterate to the board that Director Finn has joined us remotely in accordance with the Brown Act as amended by AB 2449. Director Finn is attending remotely due to a medical issue, which is a qualifying reason under the Brown Act as a just cause provision. Director Finn, is there anyone with you currently over the age of 18?
There is not.
Okay, perfect. And beginning the roll call, as President Kurtz did let us know, we will need to go to roll call vote for each action item this afternoon. Starting with the Bolinas Fire District, Director Molesworth. With for Mill Valley, Director Jones.
Here.
For the City of Larkspur, Director Way. Okay, for the County of Marin, Director Rigoni.
Present.
For Inverness, Director Donahue.
Here.
Kentfield Fire District, Director Efforgettis.
Here.
For Marinwood, Director Shea. For Muir Beach, Director Murray. For Novato, Director Goins.
Here.
For Sleepy Hollow, Director Finn.
Here.
For the Southern Marin Fire District, Director Hilliard.
Here.
For Stinson Beach Fire, Director White.
Here.
For the Town of Corte Madera, Director Andrews. For the Town of Fairfax, Director Kohler.
Here.
For Town of Ross, Director McMillan. For the Town of San Anselmo, Director Schlesinger. And for the City of San Rafael, Director Kurtz.
Here.
And we do have a quorum this afternoon.
Thank you. Does anyone have any adjustments to today's agenda? Seeing none. I don't think I need to do a roll call now. We're moving on to open time for public expression. The public is welcome to address the Board of Directors at this time on matters not on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction of the board. Please be advised that pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2, the board is not permitted to discuss or take action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments may be no longer than 2 minutes and should be respectful to the community. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting and mute your microphone when not reporting out. Do we have any public comments?
There are no hands at this time.
Thank you. And we'll move on to the Executive Officer's Report. Mark Brown.
Good afternoon. My apologies. You would think that I would have the screen shared down pat by now, but there we go. Should be popping up pretty soon. Since we are in May, there's always that question, what is the fire season going to look like? So one of my favorite sites to go to is what's called the North Ops Geographical Area Coordination Center Intel office. An amazing and dedicated group of people that are super, super smart. National weather or meteorologists usually pirated from the National Weather Service after they got really good working there. They get recruited to work for the Intel office, along with some people that are really good at monitoring our fuels. And so they typically will put out a 3-month outlook. And what I remind people when we look at this chart is that it's relative to what is average. When they say significant chance or a chance for significant wildfire, it's average for that period of time. So the chance for a significant wildfire in May, that average is much different than a chance for a significant wildfire in October. So when you look at this chart, think about how it's relative. For this chart, up through August, we're maintaining an average estimation for the chances of significant wildfire. Doesn't mean that we are free and out of harm's way. It just means that our chance of risk is average. And that's because we had a really mild April, and the rainfall totals necessarily for the winter won't necessarily always translate to what fire season looks like, but it's how far spread out that rainfall is. And we had some moderate temperatures in April, and they're anticipating some moderate temperatures in May. This chart, though, could look significantly different if we get a prolonged dry period in July or August. September and October can look a lot different. So that just means we're kind of average this year, but that could change. Did want to mention that we had a very successful and well attended evacuation drill in the Mill Valley and the greater southern Marin area on April 26th, looking at former Mayor McCauley, who had a big part in helping create the evacuation plan that used the Google study to help modify their evacuation planning that included turning Blythedale into a partial contraflow, but while also maintaining one lane of ingress for public safety resources. And then identification that Hamilton is a one-way street normally, but if you make it a two-way street during an evacuation, you increase the number of on-ramps that people can get out of Mill Valley and onto the freeway. It's a complicated plan that takes a lot of moving parts to get together, and I know that they have a lot of lessons learned that they plan on sharing those lessons learned. And then we are looking to use Mill Valley as the template of progressive evacuation planning and moving throughout the rest of the county and emulating that. In fact, I had the opportunity to meet with in the parking lot this morning with the chief of Fairfax PD, who is now the chair of the police chiefs, and we actually literally were confirming some of the work that we're doing for the Ross Valley to coordinate evacuation efforts in the Ross Valley. Last week, we ended Wildfire Preparedness Week with, and whenever there's a Wildfire Preparedness Week, CAL FIRE likes to do a little bit of a roadshow of going throughout all of California. Monday through Friday, they're at a different spot each time. So Friday, the last day, was they asked Marin to participate, and we were really wanting to focus on Zone 0 because that is one of the #1 messages that we are focusing on right now, especially with the publishing of the local hazard fire severity maps from CAL FIRE and the likelihood of Zone 0 ordinances coming to each of our communities. And so we wanted to find a well-involved Firewise community that had some good examples of Zone 0 coupled with proximity to a wildfire project. So we went to the Rafael Highlands up on Ridgewood, right next to our San Rafael San Anselmo Fuel Reduction Zone, a very involved Firewise community. We had 2 homes that had great Zone 0 examples and had our whole media event there. Quite warm that day. It was a beautiful day, well attended, and like I said, had a great example of what Zone 0 can look like. And then along the lines of wildfire prevention or preparedness week, I wanted to point out, if you haven't had a chance to read today's IJ's Marin Voice, Chief Abe Roman from San Rafael Fire had an amazing piece that he put in there about evacuation preparedness and overall fire preparedness. It's a great read. I recommend that you take the time to take a look at it. And then also wanted to point out that Supervisor Rodoni hosted a county services closer to home out in West Marin to help bring county service closer to those that would have to travel quite a bit of ways, and really with a strong focus on wildfire prevention. So Marin Wildfire was there with a table, as well as Fire Safe Marin. And speaking of Zone 0, the Board of Forestry is really putting a tremendous amount of effort to come up with the definition of Zone 0. This has been a challenge. The enabling assembly bill is over 4 years old, and concepts cannot unite, details divide. And the exact definition of what Zone 0 is has really been a difficult conversation. Is it absolutely positively nothing flammable? Are potted plants allowed? Are succulents allowed? What about mature trees? So it's been a very trying process. There's also some misinformation that's being pushed around out there. So I was asked to provide public comment at Monday's meeting and to talk about, what we at Marin Wildfire and our member agencies are doing in support of of Zone 0 and helping with the public education campaign. But it gave me firsthand exposure to some of the misinformation that's out there. Like, one of the main dialogues is that Zone 0 is driving for the total removal of all vegetation in Zone 0 and 1, which we know is not the case at all. And when it comes to healthy, mature trees, I feel like the Board of Forestry is landing in a good spot, that if you have the bole of the tree is within 5 feet of the structure, but it's a native, healthy, and well-maintained tree and can keep leaves from going onto the roof and creating litter underneath it, then it's going to be an acceptable tree, because we know that those types of trees aren't the trees that are propagating wildfire and urban conflagrations. And also there's benefit to the shade being provided both for our homes, but also for wildfire behavior. So I think they are landing in a good spot. The goal for the subcommittee that I gave comment to is to be able to give a recommendation to the Board of Forestry by June. And the governor has mandated that the Board of Forestry come up with the final definition to be published for January 1st, 2026. And then when the local agencies adopt that ordinance, it'll be for new construction immediately and likely to have a 3-year grace period for non-conforming to come up to standards. And that's something that hasn't always happened, is the mandate that non-conforming would have to come into place. And I'll use or Class A roofs as an example. We've had a Class A roof ordinance in Marin since the early 90s, but there's been no requirement that you had to upgrade it within a certain amount of time. You only had to upgrade it when it came time to replace it. So this is a bit of a paradigm shift for that. So it is going to require a remarkable amount of effort on all of us to get buy-in from our residents to accept Zone 0. And then finally, the picture on the right is a pop-up ad that you're going to be seeing coming out of the IJ. It's going to be an 8-page pop-up, and it digs into exactly what Marin Wildfire is, along with our relationship with our member agencies and what we are doing to create fire resiliency here in Marin. With that, I'll stop my screen share and take any questions.
Any questions from the board? Catherine?
This is actually a comment. Julie did an excellent article in the IJ, and I don't know if you all got a chance to see it, but it's, not just us, but all of us together and as individuals. It was really excellent.
Indeed.
I wanted to thank her for that.
Yeah, very nice. All right. Any questions for Mark? Anyone else? Okay, all clear.
Oh.
Yes, was there something? I'm sorry. Yes, Catherine.
I just had one question. You recommended that we all listen to the finance committee meeting, and in that you discussed briefly the wood fence connectors to home. And I was curious if those are going to be addressed in the Zone 0 as part of that Zone 0 requirement.
Thank you for that question. Yes, and that's been one of the questions. Does the fence count as Zone 0 or not? Or does it count as home hardening? They are considering the fence as part of Zone 0, including fences that could be in a property line between two residences that are within 5 feet of each structure or either structure.
Ooh, more to come. All right.
Other question, Rachel, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
please, sorry.
I'm on
Barbara.
the same side as you.
Yeah, I can't see.
So Mark, I'm just wondering, are you hearing anything about the Zone 0 regulation, that there will be enforcement as part of that, or is it all going to be educational?
The enforcement will land to the agency having jurisdiction. And I think it's going to vary how that gets rolled out. I would imagine for the first portion of it, most jurisdictions will land on the education side. And then as the effectiveness of the education portion of it decreases, we're likely to have to get into enforcement. But I have a feeling we are going to end up relying more on insurers enforcing than we are on the public entities insuring or enforcing, because I'm fully anticipating when my insurance renews in August that I'm going to get a note with it that says you will be Zone 0 compliant or we will not insure you.
Okay, so just the regulations themselves will not even have a suggestion of enforcement as far as you know?
Not from CAL FIRE, just the definition and the
Okay,
areas recommended.
thank you.
Julie?
And the jurisdiction, is that the town or the city, or is that the fire department?
It would be it depends. For the town of Ross, it'll be the town of Ross. And for as the countering example, the gentleman to your left, it'll be Novato Fire District rather than the city of Novato.
Yep.
Yes. Sorry, Julie. All right.
Sorry.
Let's move on if there's any public comment.
There are no hands at this time.
Okay. We'll bring it back. Anybody else have any follow-up questions? Okay. Moving on to consent calendar. So this is the opportunity for the public to comment on consent calendar items. Occur prior to the board's discussion of the consent calendar. The board may approve the entire consent calendar with one action. If in the alternative, items on the consent calendar may be removed by any board or staff member for separate discussion and vote. Do we have any hands raised for public comment on the consent calendar?
I see no hands at this time.
Thank you. Any board members like to pull any items from consent? I don't think we're seeing any. Nope. Okay.
Motion to approve consent calendars as it stands.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. We have a first and second, and we now need to do a roll call, please.
And that was a motion by Director Goins with a second by Director Donahue to approve the consent calendar as presented, beginning with Mill Valley,
I approve.
the County of Marin,
Aye.
Inverness,
Aye.
Canfield,
Aye.
Novato,
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow,
Aye.
Southern Marin, Stinson Beach,
Aye.
Fairfax,
Aye.
Ross, San Anselmo, County of San Rafael.
Aye.
I don't believe we missed any votes. The motion carries with unanimous vote of all approval.
Great, thank you. So moving on to our action items, and we'll start with the 2023-2024 Community Oversight Committee Annual Report. And Mark Brown, you're going to kick this off?
I will start and kick it over to John. As always, I want to thank the COC for the countless hours that they put into this. And it's not a perfunctory thank you. It's a profound and earnest thank you. I firmly believe that the Community Oversight Committee has made Marin Wildfire a stronger organization, a more accountable organization. I appreciate the partnership that we have through all of this work. And it's made our staff stronger as well. So, and none of them are being paid to do what they're doing. And I get to witness firsthand how many hours that they're putting into this. So John, thank you to you and the rest of the committee members.
I'll make sure we pass that on to all the members at our next meeting. So welcome. Glad to be here. Glad to be here with you. I met with the executive committee a few days ago and I actually landed a joke at the beginning. And since I'm a CPA, I don't want to push my luck and try to be funny twice. So I'm just going to jump right in. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. It worked out. Anyway, so we have 3 topics I'm going to cover. I'm going to talk about the scope of our review as a first topic. A second topic, our findings, operational findings, and then a closing topic, our financial observations. I'll pause at the end of each of the 3 and take questions, but just launch in if you want to, comment as I go along. So the first thing is the scope of the COC review. So let me tell you exactly what we do. The first thing we do is we take a look at each of the 3 groups and rank them from perspective of risk. So the largest element of dollars obviously is with core, which is 60% of our total revenues. But we feel that core is a relatively lower risk area. And the reason for that is that we observe our members, either in person or on the video, attend all the meetings of the ATC, the Ops Committee, the Finance Committee, the Executive Committee, and the Board of Directors. So we're well aware of all the tremendous governance that surrounds these decisions. We've also noted, and we didn't discuss in detail, but we have glanced over the purchasing policies, the check issuance policies, the whistleblower policies, et cetera. And most importantly, we note that there are 17 different jurisdictions all fighting for money, right? So that does get the knife sharpened, and that does provide another element of control. So there's lots of eyes on the core area. So, and I'll be speaking like a typical accountant in the past. When I say this year, I mean last year. and then the year before that, right? So the year before last year, what we did is we had a couple of members of our COC look through every single project and examine it, see if anything jumped out that looked worthy of further review. And there were a few things that came from that. We mixed things up this year and did it a little bit differently. What we said was the larger projects have lots of eyes on them. Let's just look at the smaller projects. So we looked at the lowest third of all the projects by budget, and we read all their plans. We went through the budgets. We actually examined all the invoices that supported those expenditures, and most of those invoices are third party. You know, you're paying for goats. There are some payroll costs of jurisdictions that have been reimbursed also. We gave them particularly level of focus. And then one thing we did is we went through the expansive financial systems directly with our executive officer. And I believe what I described in our report is that he showed great alacrity when he was working through those software. So we're pretty convinced that, you know, he's in this stuff every day, and that was also comforting to us. So that was the core element. We also looked at local. We thought local is actually a higher risk area in contrast to core, because basically, you know, you give your 20% out, it goes to each local jurisdiction. They do report back in. Over the first couple of early years, we really tried to encourage management, MWPA management, to not just consider this a pass-through, but to ensure themselves that the money is being properly spent. And it becomes smaller also within the local budgets of each of the organizations it falls into. So we thought, okay, that area is a little riskier. So we dove in a little bit harder in that area. And there are 17 agencies. For each of the last several years, we've looked at 5 agencies in some level of detail. So the last 2 cycles makes 10. So we're getting there. We did a detailed review of what the projects were. We made a decision as to whether it adhered to the JPA agreement. Now, we're not board, so we don't second guess. As long as it's inside the square of what the agreement has, that's where we stop, because that's where our responsibility lies. We're not debating do this versus that. It's just, is it inside of how expenditures are to be made? As far as higher level of service is concerned, which you know is one of the requirements, there's 2 components to that. One is an attestation from each of the organizations that it does provide a higher level of service. There's a second thing that says, okay, if it's going to be a higher level of service, you should know what the original level of service was, and we'll comment on that in a minute. And then we were particularly focused on personnel expenditures of the jurisdictions, having been involved with budgets personally, and not only when I was on Mill Valley City Council, but in my other world, you know, they're like moths to light. You know, people are attracted to using budgets in creative ways. So we were really particularly focused on personnel charges and found no issues there. And then finally, we wanted to make sure all the financial data held together. You know, are we getting the 20% right? Are the reports coming in? And we looked at all of that. Okay, the third area, the final area, is defensible space. So DSpace has evolved over time. You guys are all the experts here. You're well aware of this, but we now have the DSA, Defensible Space Alliance, the San Rafael and Marin have combined groups, and Nevada Fire District is doing their own thing there. It's interesting to see 3 different organizations attacking this effort in slightly different ways. I think it's quite impressive. We really focused on staff again, and we generally found they're fully dedicated staff, either full-time or part-time. So there's no question of whether their MWPA is paying for non-MWPA activities in this area, if you see what I mean. We looked at the costs. They seem reasonable and appropriate, you know, beyond payroll, the other things that were there, nothing jumped out at us. We found really excellent data through their single electronic database that is used throughout all of the MWPA. And then we took a look at how the costs are capitated and allocated, and those things all hang together for us. So that was the scope of our work across the 3 areas. If there are no questions, I'll move on to our findings. Pause. Okay. So first, good news. As you would expect, you know, we were in our 4th year. Now, of course, we're a year behind. We're in our 4th year at this point, and the organization has matured. We had no new findings this year through that process. So that was pleasant. But we had quite a few findings from the prior year, and we actually take a look at those prior year findings and follow up to see whether we can close them out and say, yes, they've been dealt with. Of the 13 findings, 9 were fully implemented, and we lay them all out in our report there and as to why we reached those conclusions. And there were 4 that were still left. Of the 4 that were left, a couple of them were just a matter of timing. Last year, the 2-year-old report was published over a year out. So 12 months had elapsed, and therefore some of the suggestions we had could not be implemented because too much time had passed. So they will be, we'll tell you what the status of each one is. And there were some others that needed further follow-up. So issue number 8, I mentioned earlier that we don't consider the local dollars just to be a pass-through. You don't just take the revenues, cut a check for 20% of it and close your eyes. We'd seen a higher level of focus by MWPA staff over the last few years, which we thought was appropriate. But we do believe it would be appropriate for the board to actually formally approve those expenditures, just like they do with core. And the executive officer indicated that would happen on the next cycle, right?
Well, what we commented on was that the board reviews them at the beginning, but what we did not historically do was review the closeout at the end of the year, and that's where we were out of sync to be able to do that. And that was when we close out the core, you guys get a line-by-line spreadsheet of all the expenditures of core, but you were not getting that for DSpace and local. So the recommendation was for us to give you guys that same closeout for DSpace and local when we close out the books, and that's what staff is committed to.
Good. Okay. Next one, as I mentioned to further to an earlier comment, the whole idea of higher level of service. You got to know what the current level of service was at the start in order to be able to assess independently whether a higher level of service has been achieved. That data has not been fully accumulated yet. I believe staff said that it would be done soon.
And it will be done before the next report.
Okay. The third item is item number 10, and this is the Ranger issue. I think it's just best if I just read it. It's not too long. And this is an issue that started in the prior year. We were aware of the Ranger activities that were fully reimbursed from MWPA, starting in Santa Fe and then later Nevada. The police rangers in all likelihood perform other police tasks beyond ignition reduction. The COC believes that the JPA expenditure should be used for ignition reduction only. We suggest that a formal report be given to the board describing all ranger activities and how the expenditures are allocated between the JPA and other activities. That was our finding in the prior year. Here's our latest update. Staff made a presentation to the board on February 20th, 2025. The presentation displayed the significant value the dedicated officers provided to the communities served. The board did not discuss the specifics of how or whether to allocate expenditures between the JPA and jurisdictions costs after the presentation. The COC notes that these are armed, trained police officers, and the COC continues to believe that they, in all likelihood, perform other police tasks beyond ignition reduction, and that costs should be allocated rather than fully recovered from Marin Wildfire. There is a baseline effort that any city expects from its police services that should be considered when addressing the requirements that reimbursements achieve a higher level of service, as I discussed previously. Other jurisdictions also use sworn police officers to patrol homeless encampments without reimbursement by Marin Wildfire. In addition, these patrols occur year-round. The risk of wildfire ignition is greatly diminished during the rainy season. We acknowledge staff's statement that a precise allocation of costs based on some sort of cost study would be difficult. We, however, consider this recommendation open and requiring COC follow-up until such time as the board makes a specific formal decision about what level of cost sharing you guys eventually settle on. So that was that recommendation.
And the reason why staff's response is partially agree is that, yes, we came along with the San Rafael PD, Novato PD, and gave that presentation that John is talking about, but we did not dive into the financials of it and the balance of that, with the intention that with the review and the approval of this fiscal year work plan 25-26, that's the opportunity for you as the board to decide what financial type of situation are you comfortable with. And the ranges, I've kind of broken this down into 3+ recommendations or options for you. Option 1 is that you as the board can decide, yes, we understand we're funding 100% of these positions. Yes, we understand there's collateral benefits. And yes, we're comfortable with those collateral benefits. There is a portion of our policy that says that we need to look for our disbursements, that we really need to look at the allocations and use cost shares when appropriate. But if the board feels that any collateral benefits are worthwhile, they can choose to go down that route. That's one option. The extreme option on the other side of it, which John already admits, or the COC already admits, would be way too staff intensive, and that is a line by line. This is related to this. This is related to that. That's not really reasonable. So the middle ground is to come up with a cost share ratio. And this is where I say it's 3+ options. There's kind of two parts to this option. You can either just say, you know what, we're comfortable with a 50-50. We're comfortable with a 75-25. We're comfortable with an 80-20. And you can just make that decision as a board. Or the other option is, we don't have enough information to make a good cost ratio analysis right now. We can approve the work plan as is, but with a set timeline that staff at San Rafael PD, San Rafael Fire, Novato PD, Novato Fire, and Marin Wildfire will analyze the data that we already have, not collect new data, but use the data that we already have, and then come up with a recommended cost benefit or cost ratio for the board to approve at a later date and adjust from there.
Do you want to bring that to conversation now?
Probably, I think since it's fresh in everyone's mind, I think we should go to there, and because the remaining 2 recommendations are fairly easy to cover.
Yep.
So it really is a Novato San Rafael conversation, as we're the only 2 jurisdictions that have the rangers. But the presentation, I mean, because part of it is that it's partially funded, at least for San Rafael, I'll speak for San Rafael, is the city funds all indirect costs and half of for part-time for the ranger, and Marin Wildfire funding covers, so it's allowed for full-time. And so and again, I think it's more of a conversation in those 2 jurisdictions. I don't know if we could identify, and it's a little awkward because we're talking about San Rafael and Novato, but I'm not sure we can actually dictate what that percentage amount should be. I'm not sure if that's because it might be different for Novato than it is for San Rafael. And so it might be on a per case. So Bruce?
I'd like to speak and thank you for your questions and concerns. Those have been many of ours for many years. For the record, I contacted our fire marshal and a contract representative that works with the Nevada Police Department. The fact is that the Nevada Police Department bills Novato quarterly for all the Rangers activities and itemizes police activities versus wildfire prevention activities. We pay for wildfire prevention. Police department currently pays for police activities. So we feel that we've resolved this on our own with some independent review. I'm with Rachel that I don't think a arbitrary cost share would work for the current work plan that we have and project that we have, and practice and on record. The original recommendation that we report on what activities and the apportionment of activities, I think that's something that is incumbent upon us to do back to the board. And so I would support us providing a record of billing, apportionment, and distinguishing MWPA funds going for one item and not the other. That's what I would like to support.
So is that a change from 24?
Sorry?
That's a change from 2024?
It's $250,000 project.
No, is that a change from 2024? As I understood it from Mark, and when we discussed this at executive committee, you confirmed that 100% of the person's salary was covered by MWPA, right?
When related to, for instance, for the Novato PD, if he was working an overtime shift on patrol, then Novato PD was paying for that. If he went to training that was related to defensive tactics, then Novato PD is paying for that. But when he was 100% of the time that he was on patrol in the open spaces, then Marin Wildfire is paying for that.
And so we still stand by our comments that we believe that while he's on patrol, he's doing more than the kind of fire suppression efforts that the taxpayer would expect with regards to this agreement. But we don't set policy. It's for you guys to set policy. I would also note that, the 20%, all the 20%, no matter what they're for, should be something the board is comfortable with. It's not a city-specific thing. So anyway, but it's for you guys to work out.
So I want to make sure we do have agreement within the board about this approach. So San Rafael has their approach, Novato, and if we could provide additional information to the board. We did have the Rangers come in and both speak, and the feedback from that I gathered from the group was appreciative of the work that's happening and felt that the funding that Marin Wildfire was doing was appropriate in those understanding the work and the scope that they're doing. I want to make sure that as we're going forward, if the COC also feels comfortable with the board's direction around that. And so we're able to close this item with a definitive, like, here's how we're approaching it. So it doesn't come back again, specifically around this one item. Barbara?
Yeah, I think this is the second time the COC brought this up, and I've brought this up before. As far as my recollection, the board did not necessarily buy into this. I raised it earlier at one point to Mark, and that's when the San Rafael and Novato folks came in and did the presentation. There was no discussion of allocation or potential allocation. So I want to clarify that for the record. I do feel that, the taxpayers are paying for work for wildfire prevention. I do feel it's incumbent upon the two agencies to make that distinction and to what the allocation should be. It should not be 100%. We know that rangers do more while they're out there, and I don't think, I know, Mark, you mentioned collateral benefits. That's not what the taxpayers voted for. There's a lot of good work that rangers do. It's just not, we are paying for wildfire prevention. So I really think there should be a date certain where both Novato and San Rafael come back, what makes sense for an appropriate allocation with some sort of justification attached, and have that discussion. I don't think we can do it today for an arbitrary. If I was going to guess, I would say 25%, but that's a guess. And so I think that there should be a more robust discussion on this with Novato and San Rafael rather than a presentation, which we all think the work is good. There's no problem with the work being good. It's just, what is wildfire prevention? So I don't think a presentation is the right thing. I think Bruce sounds like they have more specific justification for the way they're doing it. I think San Rafael might need to do the same thing.
I believe San Rafael is now doing the
Okay,
same.
well, we haven't seen it as
Right.
the board, and I think that's our fiscal responsibility. So that's where I'm going with it.
And if I could just tag on to that real quick, that's exactly what you're talking about is what I was considering that option 2B, for lack of a better word.
Oh, sorry. I think that was what we kind of ended up discussing and concluding at the executive committee meeting. We need a little more information. I think everyone would benefit from a staff report with more information about the appropriate allocation.
Yeah, I think that was really where we were going with the exec and also here today, so that we can close this item and it doesn't, what do we need to do so it doesn't return, so we can just wrap that around.
And sounds like we're coalescing around, for lack of a better word, option 2B, where we do the analysis. And I believe since the data already exists, since San Rafael Fire and all agencies are already starting this, staff should be able to bring this type of information back to you, to the board, to make a definitive answer by the end of the first quarter of 25-26.
Yes, absolutely. Is that acceptable?
Well, as I said previously, COC does not create policy. What our finding said was that we wanted a definitive answer because at the last meeting, I actually dialed in for it. It was quite impressive, the work that was being done. I don't think anyone has any question about that. The question is how much of that should be paid for by NWPA. And as you pointed out, that was not discussed. So we're looking for a robust conversation and a board conclusion as to, you know, how this fits, particularly keep in mind higher level of service and that every community, unfortunately, is dealing with the issue of unhoused people. And there's a question of higher level of service and its connection to wildfire, which is different than even fire, right? I mean, if you have a fire at your house, the fire department knocks it down. If you have a fire at a homeless site that does not become a conflagration, please God, that's what the story is. The department comes and knocks it down. That is different than the scope that we're dealing with, you know, large, you know, fuel reduction programs and the like. So COC would consider this closed at the point there's a robust conversation from the board and a firm conclusion reached, and that's it. We don't
Great.
set policy, so
Appreciate it.
we'd close it up on that
That's
point.
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Dennis?
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank the COC for raising this issue again. I'm in agreement with what you're proposing, but I also think just some better reporting and accounting because it sounds like what's going on in reality may be a cost share anyway. And so better understanding that as we work forward with the making of policy change or something, we should understand or have the entities know that the reporting is really crucial to keep track of how they're paying for these individuals. And it may just sort itself out is what I think if we understand that reporting a little better.
I think I just want to add, you know, we've seen letters to the editor recently from past members of the COC, very disappointing, feeling that they're basically rubber stamping work. I don't think that's what's happening. And I think with John and others on the COC, and John keeps saying, we don't set policy. They're not getting into our policy where they are raising what I believe is a valid issue of making sure that we are doing what the taxpayers asked us to do. I think we really need to very strongly pay attention. So I appreciate the work that the COC has done, as we all do, but let's give them their due. Thank you.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other comments,
So I'll move on to the final.
please?
Yeah, finding. So last one's pretty simple. And this was again in the local expenditures area. There is a report that shows the percentage of time for any employees which are being reimbursed on local. And we would just suggest like the general approval of local funding that this be looked at and approved specifically by the board.
And our response for that is that at the end of each fiscal year or during the fiscal year, and when we're assembling the data for the COC to review, I send any agency that has staffing a letter and a request that says, okay, this is the staffing that you have identified. Please let us know how many of those positions you had, what they were filled for that current fiscal year, and what their percentage of Marin Wildfire related activities were. So then I have a document of that. Anyone who wants to ask for it has access to that. So our response to that is that in future work plans, and then when we close out 24-25, we'll add a column to our spreadsheet. And anything that has a staffing position, it'll say what the ratio is MWPA versus non-MWPA. And if it's not, and if it's a 80-20, we'll show that there's a cost ratio with that or a financial ratio for that. Cost share. Thank you.
Okay, so I've completed 2 parts of my 3 parts of conversation. My final part is the financial part. So let me give you a quick story about a couple of things that happened in the last cycle. So some of you may, I don't know all of you, but I'm a CPA. I'm a retired CPA. Thankfully now I'm retired. And I was a partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I work with a lot of public companies. And one thing that happens with SEC reporters at the end of every quarter when quarterly reports are filed and at the end of the annual report is that the board, the finance committees, anyone in a position of oversight does what's called analytical procedures. And what that means is basically you add all the numbers up from the bottom, you come up with your answers. Then if you're cautious, you're going to sit up at the top and push down and say, does it still seem like everything works? So in connection with this close, it's just one of my habits. I said, okay, so we know the total revenues for the last 4 years. We can multiply that by 60% to get core. We can multiply that times 80% to get the minimum expenditures. We know the actual expenditures. That difference should be the cumulative roll forward. Takes 10 minutes. Well, it was not. Okay. And the reason for that was that there was an error made in the first year, and that error never got fixed, and therefore the cumulative numbers were all wrong. So we had some difficulty in chasing these numbers down. In fact, your annual report that you came out with on page 28 has got the roll forward of the 80% rules. Those numbers are different in our report. So these aren't substantially different, but there were some challenges associated with that. We didn't decide to delay issuance of our report and have another finding, because I think at this point it's pretty clear that Alyssa Schiffman has got everything ironed out. We kind of tied everything up. It's very tight at this point. And the good news was everything was there. There's no issues. All the dollars tied. It was just a question of how this one piece of information was accumulated. Another good thing that happened was Jim Wagner joined our board this last cycle, and Dr. Wagner, and he had some questions about how that table works, and new eyes, good look. We took another look at things and we said, we're making this too complicated. Let's straighten it out a little bit. So we have revised it for that. But let me give you the big picture. In my letter, in the beginning, I noted that we have total unspent funds of $16.9 million at the end of the fourth year. That's almost a year's worth of total spend. And if you look at it, we showed it by year, and it makes sense. In the very first year, you prudently didn't go out and blast a bunch of money out the door. You said, let's only spend money when we know what we're going to do. And we can see that every year, the difference between revenues and expenditures has gotten a lot closer. So there's only a couple $100,000 you didn't spend in the last cycle, but there's still a buildup of funds that remain. This is inclusive of both core, local, and DSpace. And you obviously don't control local and DSpace, but those you want to keep an eye to make sure that if you give the money for local to, say, a city like, say, Mill Valley, that they actually spend it on local, right? So of the $16.9 million of unspent at this point, core represents 10.7, but 4 million. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, local 2.5 million and DSpace about 4 million. So that's kind of how they add up. For the 10.7 million of core, there are two levels of restriction. There's a $4 million restriction of expenditures you guys have made, an allocation which basically says we don't get our money until halfway through the year. We need to save a little bit of money to keep the lights on. That's what that is for. And another $3 million, which is restricted for surprises, which, who knows what's going to happen. So you want to have some money in the bank if you have a sudden urgent need. So you take those two amounts left and you got about $3.7 million remaining unspent. So just fact point, it's in our report, and your report had it, but your numbers have to be updated. And then finally, as far as the 80% test is concerned, that's the one where things did move around a bit. And of the 5 districts, zones rather, Nevada's, I was very impressed by all the work Nevada's been doing, actually, and you exceeded your 80% test, and I think you spent the money quite well, to be honest with you, from my personal opinion. Right now, there's about 400 in Central, Southern Marin, about 700,000 in San Rafael, 600 in Central, and another small amount for the West. So you're supposed to spend that by June to hit the 5-year test. I guess we'll know in the next month as to whether that has occurred. Then the only final thing I would say is that I've been reading the IJ editorials also. I've been a bit perplexed by some of the commentary that's in there. I think you should, and there's one thing we have not done yet. Our report is contingent on the audited financial statements and us tying down the audited financial statements, right? A couple years back, COC was building all this data up, and you really, from the perspective of oversight, and I've got a lot of experience in governance, you can't put oversight on something you do. And there was no reason that Larry Chu, who was generous to put this together, should have been doing this. So the responsibility for the financial section has shifted to staff. So Elisa wrote that section of our report. And, you know, it's great. To tie that out, we need the audited financial statements. Some of the editorials were commenting that all we spend our time on is the financial data. In actual fact, that's the one thing we have not done yet because the audit has not been completed. It will take us about 20 minutes to tie this stuff down. Okay, so that's the easy part. I hope you get a sense for the breadth of what we were doing as an oversight committee, way beyond just the financial data. But so that's where we are. Anyway, so that's my report. I can take any other final questions if you have other questions.
Director Beck, can you respond to just those two?
Yeah, you
couple
bet.
items?
And I use this specific case as an example of the COC making us better. And it's specifically what we did is we calculated the admin costs in year 1 different than we calculated the admin costs 2, 3, and 4. And so that's what was skewing the numbers. They eventually all tied together. It just took some work to get there. So through the COC oversight, that made us better. A strong look at unspent funds is important as well. Measure C should be put to operational activities that make sense, but we also shouldn't spend frivolously. So the Finance Committee and then the board, our last board meeting passed a new policy that's encouraging the large agencies not to sit on local and D-space monies, but to put them to action. And in today's consent calendar, based on discussions at Operations Committee and Finance, an evaluation of our restricted reserve, we've dropped our restricted reserve from 3 million to 2.1 million, and that's going to open up 900,000 for us to operationalize.
And to be clear, we found no problems at all with the underlying data. In fact, I was pretty impressed that an organization which went from 0 to 20 million a year so quickly has got a full set of very complicated data that all ties out. So it's well put together.
Great, thank you. Clearly, we have taken you out of retirement.
Mrs.
Questions?
McCauley agrees.
I have two. The first is, since you don't have the audited statements, would there be an amendment to this report once the audit is completed? And then the second piece is, I noticed that some of our local funds are over expended, and Fairfax is one of them. It's just some are much bigger. But what do we do in that event where they get less the next year? But so 2 questions. Would there be an amendment to this once the audit is completed so that they can tie that last piece in?
So the answer to that is in the actual document, we say that it is subject to examination. And if there is a correction, we would come back. But we're like 99.99% expecting that when the audit comes out, the numbers will be the same. So there'll be no need to do anything unless on an exception basis, an issue arises.
Great.
Which we're not anticipating. And I'll let you answer.
And I'll answer that second one. And so especially for the smaller entities that want to be able to get a big project, but don't have a big local budget, Fairfax being an example of that, we, at the end of each year, we have a document that's signed by either the treasurer or the head of the organization, depending on the type of organization, that this is what you either underspent or overspent, and it's an agreement. So in a case where an entity has overspent, then that is drawn against the next year. You still get the same amount of money, but it's shown that we're kind of back feeding into the previous years that you guys expended out of your general fund, and it would be able to go back into your general fund.
Okay, well, that's great, because I know there's a couple that are kind of big. Ours is small, but it makes sense to do it that way. So thank you for that explanation, and thank you, John and the COC.
Great. Any other questions from the board? From the COC? John, thank you.
My
A
pleasure.
lot of work. Thank you
Nice
to
to
the
see you
whole
all.
team.
All right. That's nice. That's nice.
All right.
And
I
so we will need a
Public comment, and we need a motion. Any
There are
public comment?
no hands at this time from our virtual attendees, and there is no public in the room.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please, to accept the COC report?
So moved.
First by Catherine?
Second.
Second by, was that Tom? Wait, who did it?
Looks like that
Oh.
is a motion from Director Hilliard and a second from Director White
Great, thank you.
for the approval of this year, the Citizens Oversight, Community Oversight Committee report.
And we need to do a roll call.
Yes, we do, starting with Mill Valley
Aye.
for County of Marin,
Aye.
Inverness,
Aye.
Kentfield,
Aye.
Novato, Sleepy Hollow,
Aye.
Southern Marin,
Aye.
Stinson Beach,
Aye.
Corte Madera. Not here with us today, Fairfax,
Barbara?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. So thank you. Aye.
Ross, San Anselmo, and City of Santa Fe.
Aye,
And that is a unanimous vote of all in attendance today.
thank you.
Sorry, Larkspur's late.
Apologies.
Larkspur.
We actually have Larkspur, Muir Beach, and Bolinas with us for the purpose of the minutes. For the passing of the Community Oversight Committee report, can we have a vote for Bolinas?
I feel like I should abstain since I missed the item.
Okie dokie. And Muir Beach
Same, abstain, please.
and Larkspur.
Abstain.
Okay, so we have 3 abstentions, and the remaining vote still stands, so the motion carries for the Community Oversight Committee report.
Great, thank you. All right. We are launching into the fiscal year 2025, 2026 Marin Wildfire Work Plan. For those who are here, you'll notice there is a tape measure. If anyone can guess why, this was not my idea. We actually learned this at the Cal Fire event last week. I think it was the chief for Cal Fire presented this. Anyone know why we have this?
It says 60 inches on it. Is that an inch? 5 feet.
It's 5 feet. So this is it's not branded. We're hoping we're going to get some branded ones, but this is for you to carry around to remind our residents where we're going and what we're doing. So so it's a happy almost New Year gift from yeah. All right. And so I will hand this over now to Ann Krelock, who will provide the staff report on this item.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mark walked away and told me not to wear out the battery on the mic. This is a big item, long time coming. We've been working on this a long time, so we're really excited to share with you today. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Great. Okay. So today, I'm joined also by our chair and vice chair of the Operations Committee, Chief Weber and Todd Cusmano, who are going to help myself and Mark talk about this item with all of you today. This is the overall kind of order of events for this discussion. First, I'm going to go through our overall process and milestones for the last 6 months and longer working on this effort. We're going to revisit the discussion around the restricted reserve funds. Then we're going to talk about the overall projected budget for 25-26 a little bit. Then go through the JPA-wide proposals, then the zone proposals. Don't worry, we'll handle all those 130 plus proposals at a very high level. But there will be several that this group may want to discuss in more detail, so we'll make sure to include some time for that. Then I have a couple of kind of summary charts, pie charts to help explain how we're allocating funds among the different 5 zones or 5 goals. And then I'm going to ask our chair and vice chair of the operations committee to share their thoughts and input. But they're also welcome to join in any slides anywhere along the way. So please feel free to jump in. And then we'll talk about board action and next steps, and we can have additional discussion. And then this is an action item, so it would be great to take a vote today. Okay, this is a full slide. Various committees have seen this slide a number of times. I did add a few things this time around. Wanted to note that the role of the board of directors in this process is to evaluate the work plan, and hopefully you guys took a look at it attached to the agenda. This morning's version is slightly modified from the version you would have looked at yesterday. A couple of additions and modifications, we'll talk about that. And today, hopefully adopt a resolution approving it. By adopting the resolution approving the work plan, the board of directors acknowledges the local and D-space proposals, and the funding for those is distributed directly to the member agencies to manage. And then that action would approve the core proposals. And then for those core proposals requiring environmental review, further board action is required to acknowledge the completion of environmental compliance for each of those proposals and then distribute funding for implementation. So I wanted to make sure to cover that. So this process really began last fall. And that's when we started engaging with the ATC and various member agency staff to talk about the tools, the data, the modeling, and how we might dive into the nitty-gritty of those and explore how to use them this time around. So our member agency staff really stepped up to the plate here and met with the consultants and contractors to dive into the details and think through how best to use them according to their own needs and interests. So that started happening in the fall. That took about 6, maybe a half dozen or so meetings. Then the ATC and operations committee started meeting in December. This time around, the ATC Advisory Technical Committee, which is a staff level committee, shifted because we had that change in the JPA language. And so it went from a Brown Act public committee with public agendas that were very similar to the operations committee to more of a working group. And so we felt that the public didn't really lose much in terms of transparency because the agendas were really kind of a carbon copy of the operations committee agendas. But the ATC and the different member agencies got a huge benefit because they were able to collaborate across jurisdictions without worrying about violating the Brown Act, having a serial meeting, et cetera. So I was able to open up the web portal where everyone is proposing projects, and different people from different zones were able to see what each other is doing. So staff was really able to collaborate more. The budget spreadsheet was a shared document this time around. And so each member agency staff from the ATC was able to go in and adjust their budget numbers themselves according to their priorities for their projects. So big changes that led to more efficiency, more conversations, more collaboration this time around. So the ATC, the role of the ATC is really to develop all of those proposals, put them in the web portal, talk about them with each other and with staff and think through all the kind of challenging questions together. Of course, on the ATC, it's not only member agency staff, it's UC Cooperative Extension, it's Fire Safe Marin, it's state parks, national parks, county parks. PG&E is part of that conversation as well, and our environmental representative, Belle Cole from the Ecologically Sound Practices Partnership. So the idea is to increase the communication, have a lot of really productive conversations, and we really did. We met December through the end of April. And then the operations committee, which is city managers and fire chiefs, met about once a month during this time too. So about 6 meetings that were all public. And then I also want to note, we had a lot of meetings that were public. There's the operations committee, which I just mentioned, but we also met as the finance committee, executive committee just recently. And then I met with the environmental stakeholders on Monday to run through the work plan and see if they had any questions or concerns. Presented to the Ecologically Sound Practices Partnership, so other environmental stakeholders to talk through what we've been doing, see if there are any questions and concerns. And really nothing came up, just a lot of curiosity, gratitude for the work we're doing. So this is a representation of all the work of these amazing committees, the ATC and Operations Committee. And I really want to thank everybody for their hard work and time and dedication. It's been a long process. So I'm going to hand this over to Mark to talk a little bit more about the reserve fund and how we might use it this time around.
And I brought a different mic so we can not worry about one battery dying. All right, so as we talked about at the Finance Committee, based on a recommendations from the Operations Committee, when the restricted reserve was created, we really didn't know what our liabilities were. So we went the conservative route and made a restricted reserve based on our entire budget. But in reality, our liabilities as Marin Wildfire and what our restricted fund would protect against is just our core. So that's 60%. And we went with a kind of a government standard of 15% for our restricted reserve. And we can decide to adjust that down if we need. But so we had a 3 million restricted reserve. We decided let's make our restricted reserve still at 15%, but only of our core. And so that's 60% of 22 million, which turns I'll make the math easy. Our recommended, which you guys just approved, makes a 2.1 million restricted reserve. So now we have 900,000 that has just made available that we can use this fiscal year or future fiscal years.
Great, thank you. Okay, so an overview of the draft budget. We're looking at a 2.7% CPI, so an increase in revenue of 2.7% that this board approved previously. That puts us at about $22.8 million for the fiscal year 25-26. So now we're going to talk math for a little while. So we take 60% of that, and that's the core. That's the next line down, 13.7 million. We subtract out 10% of that budget for administrative costs. That's that 1.37 million. The remainder is 12.3 million. And then we take a look at our JPA-wide projects, and that's what gets subtracted out next. That was a robust conversation this time around. We'll go into more detail, but because the JPA-wide budget is taken out of the core budget and the remainder is distributed to the member agencies, there's always a discussion about the total amount of JPA-wide budget and how to potentially reduce that. So we did work this year to try to reduce the total JPA-wide down a little bit, and then we ended up allocating that to a project in coastal Marin. We'll talk more about that in a moment. So the remainder, after you subtract out the JPA-wide budget within the core, that's about 6.5 million, and that gets distributed to the zones according to their percentage in terms of how it's generated. Then if you take a look at local and D-space, that's 20% of the total goes to local, and that's a pass-through to the member agencies. D-space also 20%, and that's a pass-through to the member agencies. We're no longer holding back any funds for direct abatement, so that is no longer part of these calculations. So that's about 4.5 million in each of those buckets that goes to the member agencies. Okay, so that JPA-wide budget that I discussed previously, on this slide, I track what we allocated towards each of these JPA-wide proposals. You know, the name gets tweaked over time, but generally speaking, they're consistent over time. So want to show how it has changed and increased over the last few years, and how we also made some adjustments this time around to try to reduce that number. So we got up to 5.777, so 5,778,000 this year, and then subtracted some budget from a couple of proposals to get it down a little bit. But because the coastal Marin is only 6% of the core budget, but over 60% of the land area, we decided to put some funds towards work in coastal Marin, and I'll talk more about the why in a minute. So what we're going to do right now is briefly go through these JPA-wide proposals, tell you generally what they're all about. The two that are grayed out are still, you know, ongoing, but they're not asking for any additional funding. So they're not part of this year's budget, but just want you to know and the public to know that there are projects and programs out there that are continuing that are not seeking additional funding, so they may not be reflected in this budget because they're not taking fiscal year 25-26 funds. So going through one by one, I'm going to kind of toggle back and forth between Mark and myself to talk about some of these. So Mark.
Pretty straightforward. I won't walk you through all of it, but we did decrease some of the numbers for like communications training, research and development, just because we've have learned what our spend rate is historically over the last few years, and we felt that we were able to decrease those based on learning about the spend rates, especially since we increased our insurance dramatically, and so that helped counter out the minimal increase to the operational costs.
Great, thank you. We include a line item for Grizzly Corps Fellow, although the AmeriCorps program is in question now at the federal level, which puts Grizzly Corps in question as well. So we're not sure, and that is on hold. Environmental compliance, that's an ongoing cost that will continue indefinitely. But for new projects, we want budget for environmental compliance for new projects. We do have a good amount of rollover from 24-25, so we are going to be using that this next year. So I was able to cut some budget from environmental compliance. Environmental compliance overall, those costs will go down over time as we propose fewer and fewer new projects. But we still take care of our existing projects. We do bird surveys, we do geological work to check on slope stability and erosion potential. We hire archaeologists to go out in the field, bird biologists to go do nesting bird surveys, plant surveys, et cetera. So there is ongoing surveys, reporting, monitoring, all sorts of activities that continue. But we do like to have budget for new projects and proposals as they come up. This budget will also address costs related to the new pathway for environmental compliance that the state just unveiled, their emergency proclamation for wildfire projects. This budget does not cover CalVTP projects. That has we take environmental compliance funds out of project budgets for those because they're a significantly larger amount of effort generally. But this covers exempt projects, permits, ongoing surveys, monitoring, etc. We also include full funding for 2 veg management specialists. Those are folks we have on staff already. In previous years, or last year, we tried to fund them partially and then charge their time to projects. We found that quite onerous and felt that we could continue to track their time working in the different zones and on different projects, but not go through the heartache of trying to go minute by minute where they're spending their time and how to charge their time. So you know what they do, but they are quite busy and keep us running along. Mark's going to cover this item.
This is our standard subscription to Genesis and Ladris. You'll notice that there's a decrease from last year to this year, and that was because of the overlap of the subscription period to the fiscal year. We borrowed from last fiscal year to pay for a previous fiscal year subscription, but now we're up to snuff and paying in the appropriate fiscal year. All right. You'll notice an increase in the Fireside subscription and a decrease in the data-driven. As a reminder, rather than having each of the member agencies pay for the Fireside subscription out of the DSpace bucket, 4 years ago, we decided to pay for the Fireside subscription out of a JPA-wide proposal. We also had the data-driven framework that had the parcel level risk analysis, or dynamic risk score, as we call it, was previously in the data-driven wildfire risk framework, but it really needed to be in the DSpace budget item. So we shifted that amount from data-driven up to Fireside. So that was the reason for the increase for the Fireside subscription. And then you'll see an appreciable decrease in our data-driven. And if you combine the two, it's actually less than it was last year. And part of it is for the data-driven part, a lot of the expenditures were the upfront building of the mechanisms and the systems that we have in place. And now that we're maintaining them, And in using Green Info Network for a lot of the work, it's decreasing some of those costs.
I'm happy to cover this one. We're continuing to work with Green Info Network, our GIS contractor. We're keeping that dollar amount the same as last year. Generally, although we are going to be working with them and Santa Fe and Novato and other member agencies on our fire road inventory. That was a JPA-wide project in fiscal year 24-25. That's not receiving any new funding, but Santa Fe and Novato have been working on a potential scope of work, and that will incorporate Green Info Network. Green Info Network and their GIS work has been absolutely instrumental in helping us gather data across all of our projects, standardize that, create tools to gather that data, link it to our modeling, and create an overall kind of comprehensive data system. Field tools, apps, the dashboards, all of that, they're integral in all of that. So we really appreciate their help. They will also be supporting a future CWPP effort. Mark's going to talk about this one.
Previously, this was a position that was housed at Southern Marin Fire for a wildfire preparedness coordinator. That position has subsequently moved from being housed at Southern Marin Fire. It is now at Office of Emergency Management underneath Marin County Fire. And rather than having the money go to a specific position, it is going towards a suite of services that comes from OEM in realm of wildfire disaster preparedness coordination. And a lot of it is on the wildfire portion of Ready Marin.
Great. So we are going to continue our resident grant program this next year. The proposal is at the same overall dollar amount, but we are going to sunset the direct assistance program. It was quite time consuming and our insurance requirements went up. And so we felt like it was probably more efficient to continue on the road of the reimbursement model and rely on the member agencies for some of the direct assistance. This grant program this next year will, well, first I want to note it was developed in collaboration with the different member agencies. So a lot of your staff were out there meeting with our grant specialist and having all these tough conversations. The focus is going to be on Zone 0, not only vegetation, but also the vents and gutter guards, et cetera, and really helping to support this push towards Zone 0. So we'll be also reorganizing the timing of distribution and so that we continue to have funding throughout the season rather than running out quickly. As soon as the funds become available, we were starting to run out in this current fiscal year. And so we'd like to try to spread that out over the season, over the inspection season. So residents will need to contact us within 30 days of their inspections for pre-approval. Let us know what you're thinking about doing. How does this address items in your report? Get kind of a tentative approval and then move forward with finding your contractor and getting the work done. And then you have 2 months after that to get your work done and start the process of submitting your documents. And so the idea is that if you have inspections in May, some folks are going to jump on it, open their reports, as we've been saying, open your reports right away and start the process. And those who don't may miss out on their on this opportunity, but it also opens up the door for people later on in the inspection season to jump in and take part. So in terms of prioritizing, we're looking at a 120% median household income, so an income requirement, and also trying to help our older residents 65 and older. We would also really like to prioritize residents who haven't received funds yet, so we'll be prioritizing those folks as well. There will be a cap of $1,500 per household. And then the question came up, how do you distribute those funds across the 5 zones? So the decision of the ATC and the ops supported was not just divide by 5 and not just by revenue, because that leaves West Marin and Lurch, but taking the average of those two. So that's where we landed, and that's what those numbers are on the screen.
Do you want to pause
Can I
for
ask a
questions?
question?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think we
sorry.
might have some questions around this one. Where was that coming from? Is
It's
that
Barbara
Barbara?
again. Yeah, sorry, Rachel, I need to sit across from you. So I know that ATC recommended something lower cap, and I know the ops made it higher and made some changes. I have a concern that, okay, last year we ended up spending about 1.2 million, even the work plan. I know we'd allocate about 950 or something, and we moved money over, at least in my discussions from Mark. To me, the resident grant program is the one thing that people are going to remember, and chipper days. These are the things that somebody will say, Marin Wildfire got me this. The other thing we also know is Zone Zero is going to be a fight. And I realize the income qualified is higher than really low income, and focusing on seniors is good. But I really think that even people that have the funding need a carrot to actually do this work. And probably some of the people with more financial resources, even though they don't actually need the money, they need the push. And so I would rather that we go ahead and realize that we spent 1.2 something last year because we moved money over, based on what Mark told me a couple days ago. And I think this is a really important program, not just for reauthorizing the tax, which we know is coming, but some of the other programs that are so wonderful that those of us who are more in the weeds get, and people who have gone on tours get, they don't get it. And this is something that brings it home. So I don't understand why we're sort of ratcheting down even more. Let's make this widely available. I think the cap of 1,500 is totally fair, but let's allocate more funding and just start out with a bigger amount of money to do, and realize that we're going to be really fighting with people on Zone Zero, particularly people that have a lot of money, because they spend a lot of money on their landscaping. So give them a little bone and make them also be an advocate for Marin Wildfire. That's my long-winded speech. Thank you.
Julie?
Since you have to get you have to submit your grant request within 30 days of your inspection, and we only inspect half of the homes each year, we're really kind of making the pool bigger because we're not availing everyone for grant funds. So to me, we're actually making more funds available because the pool is going down. So maybe, Mark, you could address that.
Sure. The way you're looking at it is the amount of people that can apply based on the 30-day timeliness is going to decrease. So that's increasing the number of people that historically haven't been, because what's been happening is just the minute we open up the grant program, anyone who's had an inspection in the past year has been hitting send right there. And that's how we've been exhausting the grant funds right away. With the 30-day requirement, we see that as that's how we're going to meter it out through the year and get more people participating.
And that other group that isn't inspected this year will be eligible for those funds next year.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Catherine?
So this is one of the, I'm supporting both Barbara. The three things in our area in Southern Marin that really get people moving is on the ground projects. You're clearing the areas, doing the, clearing, ground clearing, chipper days and grants and evacuation drills. I mean, that's where I think the rubber meets the road, right there. And so in a sense, if we have anything extra, I would put it in the grant program. The other thing is that wasn't clear is we do advertising in the IJ all the time about Zone Zero and other things that are really positive, but I'm not sure that the public is aware of when do we ask for the inspections? How do, in other words, what is the process so that I have a chance of getting something? So could you, tell me, am I off? Do I not see it? I don't understand.
Historically, we actually have had an article in the IJ at the opening of the grant season where last year I think it was Adrian that did an interview with Josh Hampshire as our grant specialist that actually walked. We had an article in the IJ, and well, then we also have subsequent advertisements in it. We also have through our Fire Safe Marin newsletter. Considering the number of applicants we get,
It's working.
I think so on that. But one of the things that Anne alluded to was that we have that inherent zero sum budget fight between if the JPA wide goes up, the amount of money that's available for the zones goes down. So every time that we propose adding money to the grant program, that's considered a JPA wide program, then it's viewed as a decrease of amount of money that's going to the zones. Those of us that are looking at the MWPA as a whole, though, realize that every penny of the JPA wide ends up going out to the zones, as you can see in the dollar amounts at the bottom. So we would like a little bit of a paradigm shift within our member agencies that understand that an increase to the grant program is actually an increase to their zones as well. And then using Nevada Fire as an example as well, this may not be the reasonable solution for all of our member agencies just because not everyone gets as much money in their local. But Nevada Fire has made a significant commitment to the grant program. In fact, their entire local budget that comes from Marin Wildfire goes towards grant programs.
Other questions? I have a question around the 2 months to complete work. Is that 2 months from the inspection, 2 months from the approval? And these days, 2 months is nothing in terms of trying to get people out to your home to do stuff.
The 2 months is from the pre-approval. But if we find that that isn't working, people can't get contractors out to their home, we could change that.
Okay. And then I was wondering if I'm curious if there's conversation around the most egregious homes that versus a home of median income and 65 and over and, but those homes in areas that we know are just such high areas in terms of sort of along Barbara's line of questioning around facilitating and helping those homes versus other pieces there.
So that is in progress as part of the direct assistance program. That's part of the 24-25 fiscal year.
Yeah, but now we're not
work
going to do
plan.
the direct assistance.
Correct. That program has taken a lot of time and effort to bring those most at-risk parcels, those with a lot of maintenance that needs to get done through the process. A lot of contacting, recontacting. It's a lot of hand-holding and time to get them moving through the process. To go out to the parcel and write up a description of all of the things that's going to happen, get the contractor out there. And so that is happening. It's slow going with
more
those
than 2
residents,
months.
and it's voluntary. Yes. Yeah.
No, I just want to finish this thought around, we haven't quite figured out the sweet spot on the grant program. We went to direct assistance and it sounds really good on paper, but as you say, it's really hard in practice. And I do think, and to Director Goins, what you mentioned in the exec meeting, having those examples are the best education and having to share in the community. And I think it's really true when you go and see a home that is actually, we saw that in San Rafael Highlands, right? Highlands, right? In that neighborhood, people just gravitate and like, oh, we really could do this. And it makes such a difference. So I just want to make sure that as we start continuing to tweak the grant program, that we're looking at that. And then my last piece, and then I'll hand it over to Director Goins, is did we keep track of all of the grant requests that we couldn't fulfill? And what that dollar amount would be if we were able to fulfill?
We have the records. We don't have the numbers in front of us.
Okay, it might just be actually curious to see what that amount would have been if we were able to, if they were fulfilled.
Great. I like the thought that's gone into this. I am supportive of making sure that funds go to people that really need it as opposed to people that, just basically can write a check. But the one issue that's been thematic, I think, over the years is how much we're investing. And maybe you alluded to this a little bit, the grant program at $900,000. We had a $3 million reserve, now 2.1. And there have been discussions at several levels about, if there were need for additional funds in the grant program, might there be consideration for reallocation of that $900,000 into certain categories of projects? And I see this as one that I don't know that how we would change this figure at this point in time, but I think that we might want to consider maybe monitoring. I understand you're going to portion funds throughout the year, but as you say, the money disappears really quickly. And if it disappears, that we might want to consider reallocation of some of that $900,000 to grant programs, which I think we all agree are very beneficial. And Rachel, I may not have heard all of what you said, so I hope you didn't say anything.
No, it was fine. Any other comments, Dennis?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that our chipper program is really successful. There's a reason for that. It's really simple for people to use it. Don't build this so complicated that this program doesn't work, or we need to be flexible enough to change if it's not working. Because I agree that low income is fine, 65 and older is fine, but most importantly, we want people to do the work. And so I just want to mention that. Don't be so rigid. I've learned so much at the county that more red tape you put on things, the more difficult it is to implement the program. And so we should keep that in mind, because spending the dollars is the most important thing that we do.
Agree. Other comments?
Just ask a question.
Please.
If I heard you correctly, Anne, you said the direct assistance program is being phased out, right? And I look at the work plan for the grants, and it gives a contribution saying the direct assistance / grant program is intended to provide residents. I'm guessing it's just a typo. You probably want to take that out if there's no more direct assistance. Is that right?
We can do a find and replace and make sure to catch any
Yeah,
remnant.
I mean, I noticed that I believe Novato and San Rafael, I believe, and others have some kind of direct assistance component to their work, which I think is great for those larger communities. Thank you.
Julie?
I'm just wondering if the two co-chairs of the Ops Committee would like to provide any feedback about the grant program.
I think, like you, we struggled a bit to make this as impactful as possible. I think the input about simple as possible also. I mean, these things are opening and closing, in literally minutes. So the popularity is there. I mean, by context, when you're looking at $900,000 and $1,500, assuming everybody maxes that, you're able to do this for 600 people. And so being strategic about the locations where the treatments are, equitable about how it's being distributed across the different zones, this coupled with, and I think we can also look at the chipper days as a grant program in sorts. It does require a little bit of sweat equity to bring it out to the curb. But a lot of those tipping fees are being mitigated by that service as well. So when I look at these combined, and we did recommend some adjustments, and that was, I think, lowering the cap a little bit so we could expand. There was another piece that we looked at adjusting that I'm drawing a blank on.
Yeah, the age requirement and moving the cap from 1,000 to 1,500.
So we moved it up, not down. Okay.
Mhm.
So those are the two items that we tackled. And I think again, the target audience being and looking at, fire fatalities, et cetera, in an aging community. But I mean, the challenge you have here is the popularity far outpaces the available resources. And I think that's a good thing, but, I think our input was, let's try this and we can come back and adjust again.
I have one more thing, Rachel, just a question. Since we're focusing on seniors, there are seniors who don't use the internet. Do we have any like 800 line or information line that people can call if they want to be walked through? Because we don't want to limit involvement. So I think you've already got it, but go ahead.
Yeah, with through the inspection process and getting a paper copy of your inspection, you can find out about the grant program. You can get paper copies of the grant documents. You can work with our grant specialist in person, and he has office hours, and you can sit down and do it all kind of with him and be walked through the process.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Moving on. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of Chipper Day, this is another way where we interact directly with the public and help residents do their D-Space. And this is a very hands-on program, very successful program, and residents have been very happy with it. So we're going to continue with a model that we used in 2024. And that is 6 rounds of chipping in each zone, and each round is a week. So that's 30 weeks in total. Last year, that brought nearly 4,700 pickups and 15,000 cubic yards or more removed. This is linked to Fireside, and so there's data collected. And we did reduce the budget slightly because we had a little buffer in there. And in order to reduce the JPA-wide proposal budget overall, we cut 100,000 out of that buffer. And then Ember Stomp.
As we enter into our 4th year for Ember Stomp, in the previous 3 years, a question that was often asked to me was, why isn't Marin Wildfire up front for Ember Stomp with Fire Safe Marin in the supportive role? Because it has been Fire Safe Marin up front with Marin Wildfire as a supportive role. And there was also a lot of times where I got asked, why isn't Marin Wildfire financially contributing to Ember Stomp? Fire Safe Marin has been the point for creating Ember Stomp. No Fire Safe Marin funds were used to get Ember Stomp initiated. They would go after philanthropic contributions, vendor contributions, and then go into each of the fire departments that are part of Marin Wildfire and asking for contributions from the fire departments in order to put Ember Stomp on the road. It usually takes about 150,000 to get this on the road. We are still going to be using Fire Safe Marin and Red Barn Productions, who also puts on the Marin County Fair, as the leads for putting on Ember Stomp. Red Barn Productions is who we used the last 3 years. And rather than continuing to rely solely on philanthropic contributions, the request through the operations committee was to put $150,000 as a place mark. We will still go after philanthropic contributions, but we will no longer ask the member agencies to provide contributions towards this. And then whatever philanthropic we get, or also from our vendors that'll be participating, that'll decrease that number. And then we'll push that money back out to the zones. To make math easy, let's say we get 100%, $100,000 in contributions, then that means we would call up Nevada zone, you have 27% or 26%. Where do you want you have 26,000, what project do you want that 26,000 to go to? So on and so forth for each of the zones. But this is a conscious shift of Marin Wildfire being pushed up at Ember Stomp, with Fire Safe Marin being in a supportive role. And then our CWPP, we are going into our 3rd CWPP, or Community Wildfire Protection Plan, for the County of Marin. The first 2, the 2016 and the 2020, were wholly funded by grants. No fire department in Marin County has ever technically paid for a CWPP in the past. As we drafted the Marin Wildfire JPA language, went through the ordinance process, it was always envisioned that Marin Wildfire would be the host or the funding source for future CWPPs. One of the important things, besides the analysis and the information that we get out of a CWPP, is that you have to have a current CWPP to be eligible for grants. And so that is a typical way for grantors to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and analyzing what you need to do. At the time, our 2020 CWPP was considered state of the art. It was used as an example. Several people modeled our CWPP, and times change fast. Our CWPP now is kind of archaic compared to CWPPs that are coming out now. That's not a criticism. It's just how fast things are changing. Our current CWPP is a snapshot of time in 2019. The data that's in that CWPP is from 2019. And so as we were building our new CWPP, it's being built as a dynamic tool. So after we do the analysis, we enter the fuels data, we enter the demographic data, we get an analysis. Now, with the new CWPP, as we do work, that information will be pushed back into the system, and the analysis will be updated as we go. So it'll be a live and living document the entire time. And the way we built the RFP is that we won't need to keep those vendors on hand. They are to build us a framework for us to utilize, and then we push that data in ourselves, and the results come out. We are going after 2 separate funding sources to be able to pay for the CWPP, and if we're successful, then we won't need any Marin Wildfire funding for the CWPP. But we felt we needed to earmark the money for that and then backfeed the money back into the organization should we get a grant in that same ratio that I talked about with Emberstop. We felt it was important, and the operations committee felt it was important to show that Marin Wildfire is in a supportive role in the rollout of Zone 0 ordinances. We are not in lead, and that's because it's the agency having jurisdiction that has to be in the lead role when it comes to Zone 0 ordinances. But Marin Wildfire is a convening type agency, and we also have the resources to support the development of Zone 0 ordinances and the implementation. We wanted just to capture that as a work plan item to show that this is a priority for us. But because of our existing processes that we have, we felt we did not need to put a budget number to it.
Okay, so this proposal reflects a number of years worth of collaboration and conversations, coordination in the coastal zone. So a few years ago, we started working with the county on permitting to do work along roads in coastal Marin. We do have some roads where we are able to do roadside vegetation management along evacuation routes, and that's fantastic. We've also been discussing projects with various land management agencies and member agencies and the Coastal Commission. That has been a much slower process. So we've been talking with the Coastal Commission staff for, I don't know, 3 years at this point. We have made progress. It's a long process. However, that has set us up very nicely to take advantage of the new, as of March 1st, and I've mentioned this to you all before, but the emergency proclamation that the governor's office released. This emergency proclamation is meant to streamline and move fire fuels projects statewide forward more quickly. This is a big deal. It is a quote unquote suspension of CEQA and Coastal Act compliance and related regulations. A suspension might be a strong word. There are a lot of requirements. There's an environmental protection plan that's on the state's website. You need to comply with all of those things and submit data, project description, GIS, and analysis. However, it is a streamlined process and it is unique and it is only for this calendar year. And so we'd like to take advantage of it, particularly in the coastal zone. So this provides a very unique opportunity to get some work done in coastal Marin that otherwise would not be available to us. So talking about the JPA-wide budget in general and the need to do work in coastal Marin where only 6% of the core revenue is generated, but we've got 65% of the land area, we cut some budget from a couple of coastal or from JPA-wide projects and allocated that towards additional work in coastal Marin. We've been working with member agencies and UC Cooperative Extension and Willow Labs and various land management agencies on potential project areas. So we have polygons kind of ready to go and submit to the state. So this work will also include, especially, depending on how onerous the state process is, roadside work that is already approved or we can coordinate with the county, defensible space work around critical infrastructure that we could coordinate with the county, and other items in the coastal zone. This also, the discussion around this budget also included a discussion around the reserve fund. So now with 900,000 available as of this meeting, the discussion, the budget put forth for this work was initially 500,000. We found 200,000 in JPA wide, and the discussion was around that using 300,000 of the reserve fund towards work in coastal Marin. So that's an item that that this board may want to discuss. I can hit pause, or we can continue on, your choice.
Questions around coastal zone? This is a big change.
Well, being from the coastal zone,
Sure.
I'm very, very supportive of it. And my colleagues here can agree with me. We've been very frustrated that because we don't have the tax population, that our funds are minuscule. So I would like to propose that the board approves this. Thank you.
Dennis?
Yeah, thanks for staff for bringing this forward and the Ops Committee for recommending it. The only question I have, and I'm going to support this, is that since there's a window of opportunity, should we be committing more? And that's my question, because I don't know what work plans this align with. I know in general what they do. Is there more that we can do if we have the opportunity and the money? So.
I think that was, I share that question as well. I feel like if we get the green light, it needs to be all hands on deck. And I feel that this is just not to use the word core, this is such an important component of what the JPA is about, is put the funding and the work into the areas that need it. And when sorry for those on the line, but we have maps in the room that show where work has been done. And in West Marin, it's blank. And we really do need to do the work there. So I absolutely, and I'd love to see actually the ability to direct more funding if that would help.
I agree completely with what you're saying and what Catherine said too. And when you figure out West Marin stretches from Inverness all the way down to Muir Beach, it's quite a long way. I mean, when you count the town of Bolinas and everything else, it's really something that's really, really important, I think, for West Marin, and I'm certainly in favor of it.
Get out of Stinson and actually
Huh?
Jones Beach.
So Stinson,
Get out of-
yes, Stinson Beach too, of course.
All right, we're going to go around the room here. Let me get here, Claire.
Yeah, no, I obviously echo all of those thoughts. I guess the question is what's the mechanism for doing that if we're approving this budget right now?
Okay, let's hold that question. We'll capture that question. Julie?
Yeah, I listened to the Ops Committee meetings, and one of the factors that one of the town managers brought up was ensuring that this project, given that additional monies were going to support this project, would benefit the rest of the area. And I wondered if maybe one of you, maybe Chief Weber, could address that.
Absolutely. I think one point too, I want to make sure that we're not pushing away our values as an organization with ecologically sound practices, and that this is an opportunity to get through some of the bureaucracy, but we're not compromising those pieces in order to move this work forward. So that was something at the ops. And the second piece is, I mean, I think we all understand how fire works, especially now, and a fire that starts and gains significant momentum out of a community, with a west wind on it, is going to be in all of your communities relatively quickly. And vice versa when you look at the east wind. So I think that, when we talk about any of these zones, that is a highlight. The work we're doing is mutually beneficial.
Great, thank you. I think we have Director Paulson.
Yeah, just a clarification. I'm curious what the overlap is with like Measure A county work and, the state responsibility areas. How much have they done out there? How would this overlap? Do they do any road work or any building work or anything?
I can hit that if you want. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, we talk about the maps in here. What it's not reflective of is the work County Fire is doing under maybe a state CAL FIRE grant. And we're working to get the maps complete with all of the work that's there. And then, County Roads is doing some great defensible space work along the roadways that isn't covered by MWPA. And the Marin County Open Space District commits almost $2 million a year to vegetation management and work being done on those parks that's outside of MWPA measures.
Does that cover these areas that we're looking at in West Marin or?
So a lot of what we're talking about in West Marin are in the communities that just spoke up. Stinson Beach, which is a fire district, Inverness, Bolinas, Muir Beach, and those areas don't necessarily have county parks in them. Most of this work is directly in those communities, and they're independent fire districts.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara?
Yeah, I think I would like to echo what Director Rodoni was talking about. And that is, I'm just thinking about what John McCauley just talked about, that in core, at the end of the report, they had 16.9 million that wasn't expended. And I think he brought it down to about 3, something like that. To me, I don't know what the work plans are that are out there, but it does seem to me that we could consider taking some of that, maybe bring it up to 500,000, see how much work we can get done. But I guess I would ask Chief Weber, I'm sure you're incredibly knowledgeable about all the work that needs to be done out there in these jurisdictions. Do you think we could potentially spend 500,000, and as we go, if there's more to be done, could we, bring that back for mid-year budget adjustment or something? I just don't have a clue, so I'm just throwing out a number to raise it
Dan
to.
also has a feedback on that one too.
Okay.
Sure. There is a requirement under this emergency proclamation that you do the work within 2 years. And so we're trying to be judicious about how much we can bite off within that period of time. It may be that we work with, so there's a 1-year requirement in 2025 to submit your potential project. And we're on track to do all of that. There's a 2-year limitation for implementing. And so one avenue could be to allocate the 500,000, 300 through the reserve fund and 200 through JPA wide now, and then revisit this in next year's work plan to see how far and how quickly we can work, and then revisit that budget for next year.
Well, that, I just, in my mind, that seems like a good approach to take so that we can hit the ground running and not have to come back to this board for a change or something of that nature. And then if we can't spend the money, all of it, or if we can spend more, let's bring it back next year so that we can continue to do the work, because there has been, quite a stall in those areas because of some of these requirements, which are meant to be really beneficial, but they're not helping us. We also know that there was a fire a couple of years ago out there, and Todd Lando was busy texting me during that, trying to work on that fire. So I just think that's something this board should consider today. And I threw out 500,000, so increased it 300,000 from the reserves. And let's see where we are next year.
Bruce, did you still have a comment?
I just wanted clarification on the timeline and process for submittal of project under the governor's emergency proclamation. When do we submit them? When do we hear? I mean, we're allocating money right now. We don't have yes yet. So can you just please give us a quick rundown on that, Ann?
We're in the process of developing our submittals through the emergency proclamation now. So we have their form downloaded and have everything populated and ready to go. The process is you submit your initial project description, and then you can submit your GIS files, et cetera. And then there's a lot of desktop analysis and consulting with the Coastal Commission, consulting with the tribe, consulting with California Department of Fish and Wildlife potentially. So there's a lot of process involved, but it speeds up all of the process, and all of these different agencies and partners are directed to move quickly. on all that coordination. So it could be that through submitting these projects, we could get going in the next,
I mean,
certainly
we have
summer.
limited operating seasons, and optimally, we start the project when we want to start the project. But my question is how does this timeline conform with the operational realities associated with getting work done on the ground?
Yeah, that is a big limitation in the coastal zone. Nesting bird season, northern spotted owl nesting season that we avoid. That's particularly an issue in the Inverness area. And so we have a short period of work time, especially in Inverness, where we do roadside vegetation management, et cetera. So it is slow going. And whenever we do work, so our project design and implementation features, as Chief Weber alluded, will continue to apply to all of our projects, regardless of the emergency proclamation, because that's how we function and that's how we steward this landscape and do vegetation management projects. So part of that are, surveys, bat surveys, bird surveys, plant surveys, things like that. With all of our coastal marin projects, we have a biologist who walks ahead of the crew and makes sure that we are avoiding any sensitive species, et cetera. So it's slow going and sensitive habitat, but we do it with care. And we do it within a very short time period after nesting season for northern spotted owl and before the rains start going. So it's logistically, even with a large budget, there is a limit to the amount you can get done in the coastal zone.
So with that, I
Mhm.
mean, reality is with checking all those boxes that are super important from the environmental perspective, the actual approved work window is very small. And so it seems that even with a proposal of 500,000, if more would be helpful to increase the work that could be done in that work window, would that be helpful?
To some extent, yes. We will be coordinating with Marin County Fire, with member agencies in the coastal zone, and using our own vegetation management specialists who have experience working with crews. Even crews in the coastal zone recently worked in Muir Beach. We can scale up to some extent, but there's a limitation in terms of, Marin County Fire has other projects going on as well. So there are limitations, but I think to some extent scaling up does help. It will be very interesting. That's why I'm wondering if we need a two-phase budgeting process for this. See how 500,000 goes for this year and then take stock and see if we can spend more next year.
I don't know. I mean, I'll take everyone, the direction and the recommendation from chiefs and, and from you in terms of if there would be more flexibility to have additional funding so that when that work window opens, we have that, or to go with the recommendation right now, which is the 500,000. And what I'm concerned, I'm highly concerned that we have that work window, we've expended the 500 and then we're not able to do work. And the way our environment is right now, things are so ever changing that this emergency, whatever, could change as well.
It's Rachel, if I may. I think I'm happy with staff's proposal. I think I've heard loud and clear, though, that if there's an opportunity in another year or even in this year, we take advantage of that. And I think there's support for that.
All right.
I would certainly support all of that as well. And there's an awful lot of heavy vegetation throughout the coastal areas. Quite frankly, it would soak up almost as much money as we could ever find to make a slight dent in all of that's out there. And I know Chief Weber would certainly agree with that. And there's a lot of strategic areas that are extremely dangerous. And 500,000 is an improvement. Maybe we could look a little higher than that, but I certainly would support that.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? All right, moving on.
Great. Great discussion. This next item I spoke to previously. We'll be working on a countywide fire road assessment using previously allocated funds, so no additional funding. Santa Fe Fire staff and Novato Fire staff have been taking the lead on this effort. All of the member agencies and partner agencies will be a part of this. It'll be very interesting to take stock of all the fire roads and what types of maintenance activities are recommended in all the different areas. And then the next item is related to public education, and Mark's going to take this one.
And I'm sure we all know this will be an in-depth conversation, especially since any 30% increase to a budget request requires an in-depth conversation, and it can't just be taken lightly. When I saw the initial 30% increase from Fire Safe Marin, I was really honest with them. I said, I think we're going to need to sharpen the pencil here. This is a very difficult pill for us to swallow. So they told me they were going to go back and crunch the numbers and see what they could do. And they came back and said, Mark, we could, but we wouldn't be accomplishing what you guys as Marin Wildfire and your member agencies have been asking us. And so I wanted to help explain the relationship with Marin Wildfire, Fire Safe Marin, and its member agencies. Part of it is that Fire Safe Marin has been attending each of our Wednesday check-ins with our staff as their role of ongoing PIOs for Marin Wildfire. We don't have our own PIO. We felt it was important to start getting messaging out as Marin Wildfire. And so most of the communications that you see that are out there that say Marin Wildfire on it, it was actually pushed out by and developed by Fire Safe Marin wearing Marin Wildfire's hat because we didn't have it. And so that's driven by our weekly meetings that we have with Fire Safe Marin staff at our staff meeting. And then bi-weekly, I meet as the executive officer with staff from Fire Safe Marin to look at our overall strategy as we're going on through the year, both for Marin Wildfire, but also the feedback that we're getting from our member agencies and what type of work that we need to scope for the next month or two. And then when it came to building the work plan, we had numerous meetings. We're sitting down with Fire Safe Marin, myself, staff, getting direction during Marin County Fire Chiefs Association meetings, getting direction during the operations committee. And that's really what drove what was in the work plan proposal and then the costs that are coming with it with a 30% increase. One thing to keep in mind, or a couple things to keep in mind, is we are in our last year of our contract with Fire Safe Marin. So we do have a professional services agreement that was brought to the board. And at that time, we could have gone for an RFP, but Megan and I went through our sole source policy, and it felt that it was matched what met our sole source definitions. And so that's how we ended up with not going out to an RFP for Fire Safe Marin at this time. One thing that's also important to recognize, Fire Safe Marin has not increased their budget request from us since day one. In fact, their budget request has gone down since day one. And if you look at the majority of our professional service agreements that we have, there's an automatic 3% COLA built into them. And so if you were to look at that, you can make an argument that we are already underpaying Fire Safe Marin by 12% because of 4 years. That's going in actually 5 years, 15%. That's going into the 6th year, that makes it 18%. And they are a nonprofit, which helps really keeps the costs down. All of their employees are non-benefited employees, work on an hourly rate. There were concerns that we were significantly increasing their staffing, but they're actually not increasing their staffing. They're just some of their part-time employees are going to be getting more hours. I think a lot of people know that Chief Tyler has stepped in, but that was to replace Rich Shortall, who's retired now, and he's bringing a ton of subject matter expertise. And if you look at their track record, you can argue that we've been underpaying him over there. Some unexpected activities since our last work plan with Fire Safe Marin, just to give you a small sample of how we've kind of been growing with what they have been doing for us, it's never been any work plan that they've been an RPIO. For the last year and change, they've been doing our PIO functions. And then when we had the opportunity to host those last 2 conferences in March, it was Fire Safe Marin that took the lead in implementing that. And it was Fire Safe Marin time that put in there. And then even though it's a state-funded task force, guess what? We had to go out and get philanthropic funding to put on that task force meeting, and it was Fire Safe Marin that did that. So after sitting down with the fire chiefs, sitting down with the ops committee, sitting down with staff, the 25-26 work plan priorities were to develop a large-scale public education campaign focusing on Zone 0. Using Mill Valley in 2018 as the cutting edge, bleeding edge of being on the forefront of trying to create Zone 0 as an example. And we know it's going to be a slog. It's going to be a battle to get our residents to agree on Zone 0. We really want to expand. We continue to want to expand our Firewise communities. And here's some data that we've been getting from Firewise communities. They're 30% more likely to open their reports, 3.5 times more likely to resolve issues that are in those reports. They have to put a financial contribution each year in order to maintain their Firewise status. That equaled $12.5 million of work that was done by our residents because they had to be a part to do that, had to contribute to that to be a Firewise community. And they contributed 207,000 volunteer hours because they have to put volunteer hours over. So by increasing our Firewise communities, which Fire Safe Marin is our point people to do that, we're getting a ton of work done. They've also contributed to our county ambassador program, and that is so that when we're presenting in communities, instead of someone coming from San Rafael or Novato to go talk to Point Reyes, they're actually seeing a Point Reyes resident that's from that community. And I use Point Reyes as an example because at Supervisor Rodoni's event yesterday, Fire Safe Marin was there with one of their ambassadors from West Marin. We want them to strengthen the partnership between Marin Wildfire and our member agencies, meaning we want to strengthen the feedback loop from our member agencies to a central point, Fire Safe Marin and Marin Wildfire side by side, so that we don't get mission creep. We don't get one agency asking Fire Safe Marin to do this over here. We don't get mission creep over here. We want to be able to have a centralized focus point, but also to make sure that the message that's being developed by Fire Safe Marin and shared by Fire Safe Marin is inclusive of the requests from the fire agencies, but also so that we could personalize it for our member agencies. So if it's going out in Bolinas, we can put Bolinas logos on it, and it's going to feel like it came from Bolinas rather than Fire Safe Marin. We also need to increase our perceived value for Marin Wildfire. We also workforce development, especially when it comes to Zone 0. One of the #1 complaints we're hearing about fences. Is there a contractor that can build that fence for me? What contractor is there for vents? And so we've been with Fire Safe Marin partnering with Marin Builders Association to help develop that workforce in that area. And then we want to increase and diversify our educational materials and the visibility of them, and not just be digital, not just be in newspaper, but get them in different forums so that you have, regardless of how you receive the message, those people are going to get it. Looking, I don't want to go on too long, but the 25-26 work plan deliverables are all in alignment with those items there. Some of the key points, though, is the monthly newsletter. We have a goal right now. They're at 13,700 members or issues that they are subscribers. We want to increase that subscription to 15,500. Again, professional training, partnerships, workforce development. Continue to improve and increase our bilingual services. Improve our school programs, because we find that if we can get school programs, one of the audiences that we're not getting is the parents of school-age children. So if we can get materials into our school-age children that land on the desktops of our school-age parents, then we're starting to get more diversification and more people to our choir, as Chief Tyler loved to say. We need to get more people to the choir. So what are we getting for that 30% increase? Well, I already talked about the fact that we haven't paid a COLA for 5 years. But when you look at the breakdown of percentages for that 30% increase, 30% of that is to support our day-to-day PIO functions for Marin Wildfire. 10% of that increase is for Zone 0 development. They've been working on Zone 0 development since day one, but for the increase, 10% of it is going to go towards Zone 0. 20% of that is for our increased engagement with our community partners, meaning member agencies, the CRTs, the community-based organizations. Engagement with community members is 10%, workforce development is 20%, and then media relations is 10% of the increase. And of all the contractors that we have, I think when it comes to reporting exactly what they've been doing, FireSafe Marin is probably the most visible with our monthly reports that they give of exactly what we are doing. And to me, it makes it very clear where our monies have been going. And then to help increase visibility, transparency, and help define what that relationship is between Marin Wildfire and FireSafe Marin. Are they partners? Are they a contractor? And since we're entering into our last year for our contract with FireSafe Marin, we are proposing that we start the development of an RFP in November. We may end up deciding that, you know what, sole source is the right thing. But I think going through the process of developing an RFP can help us analyze what that relationship is, create a better definition of what that relationship is. And as Dan Schwartz from Larkspur pointed out, well, maybe some of those positions services that we are getting from FireSafe Marin could be better utilized as positions at Marin Wildfire. And I believe the development of that RFP can help us lead to those answers and actually clarify and give us some further definitions of that relationship. This was many hours of conversation at ATC, many hours of conversation at the Ops Committee, being grilled by city managers, always fun. Thank you, Todd. Asking tough questions that were tough questions that needed to be asked, that needed to have answers. And so we worked through it. And at the end of the day, we did have unanimous support from the Ops Committee for this budget proposal, and staff supports the budget proposal as written. And I'll pass it off to Todd and Jason for any further comments.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Todd Cusimano, City Manager of Mill Valley. I just want to start off. I haven't said anything in 2 hours, so I just want to set the stage. I feel like the appreciation of like what you're faced with setting policy, and we're all, Marin County is very collaborative. We have a lot of JPAs. We work together. So this isn't new to us, but this JPA is very, very difficult for us to work together, right? Think about it. At the ATC level, to the Ops Committee with city managers, and fire chiefs, to all of you, what do? We first start, we have 3 pots of money to accomplish something really important in our communities. And so we start there. How does this affect us? How does it affect us local, D, space, and core? And then we start to go regional. We have 5 zones. And so then it's the relationship of our zones. And then we have the JPA as a whole, Marin County. And that conversation starts, and it's a 6-month slog to really work through that. And along those lines, think about this. We're a young agency. What are we? 5 years old. And so every year we continue to catch up, pivot, reinvigorate, and figure out which way we're going with our plans, and then challenge each other and try to improve every year, because it continues to change. And so at first, right, as John said on the Oversight Committee, started bringing in money, but we were taking our time being methodical. And we were worried at first of, okay, we don't want MWPA staff. We need more staff, but we don't want them to have mission creep. We have to control staff, right? We don't want you to have too much. And I'm really glad where we ended up after 5 years. We have a super amazing staff, and that's awesome. But what's going on right now at our local levels? We're starting to look at the local and D-space funds, as John talked about in the Oversight Committee. And a lot of us are spending anywhere from 45% to 51% on staff. We're starting to get, staff up to do the work that we need to do. And then the other level of what the Chief Weber and the group, our fire chiefs and the work of staff, we're saying, hey, some of this should be centralized. When you think about FireSafe Marin, some of this should be centralized, and what should be handled back home. And so when you talk about this and you roll it all up, we're at the JPA-wide proposal, and it's to the $100,000 conversation right now of moving money. And I urge you all to kind of look at it now of saying, hey, the soup has been made. It's been put into the pot. Your experts have looked at this from the fire chief and MWPA staff going, this is what we need. This is what we need to do. You have the city managers that are sitting there going, governance. We're starting to become a big agency. We're starting to mature. We need to look like a governmental agency. Having someone come in that's been a partner they're more of a vendor in FireSafe Marin. Let's fix that. What does that look like? Let's develop process. Let's get eyes on it and give recommendations. The grant program, the chipper program, these are things that we want to solve each year and kind of find that sweet spot. So in your conversations today, when you think about this JPA-wide policy, last year, we solved the legal part, our risk management. We checked that box. We have risk. Let's make sure we're covered. This year and last year, we kind of found that sweet spot for the chipper program. It's probably what you see right here. It's about $1.4 million. $1.5 million is our sweet spot. So now we can put that in. We can anticipate that with CPI increases potentially. We've struggled with the grant program. The conversation you had is exactly the conversation we've had. And what we've done is said, hey, let's look at data. Let's try to impact the most we can. Let's try to improve this program every year. We're not quite there yet, but let's make some changes and continue to improve it. And so that's what's before you today. Fire Safe Marin, I think Mark hit it perfectly. It was shocking. Those of you that know Dan Schwartz from Larkspur, he's our fiscal hawk. I love him to death. And when he starts talking, everyone in the room listens. And he was looking right at Chief Weber and he was saying, Chief, what are we going to do? That's a big deal, right? And so Chief Weber is like, let's form a subcommittee and let's start to do the work with staff. What are we asking them to do? What are our recommendations? And does this make sense? Can we explain it? And I think Mark did a really good job. You know, for Fire Safe Marin, they didn't ask for increases for the last 5 years. And a lot of member agencies asked them to do even more. They didn't work through MWPA. We were asking to do it. They did it. They were great partners. And that was a mistake too. And so when you start to like peel away the layers of the onion, it was really easy. It made a lot of sense to us. We're like, where are we now in this 5th, 6th year? What are we trying to accomplish? Where are our 5 goals, our chief objectives as a JPA? Where does this fall in? And you look at that dollar amount and you go, yeah, that makes sense. The other thing is the window of time, the strength of this JPA. When we talk about West Marin, when we formed this JPA and we built this structure, we knew there's going to be moments in time where we have to help our partners in West Marin. It's now. And at all levels of our organization get it. I'm really proud of it. We talked about this too. We said, hey, can we give them an extra $1 million? Like what do they need? And when we started to vet it, I'll say it for Chief Weber, our work plan is really, right? It's really aggressive. And they're like, we probably can't accomplish any more than this project. And so same conversation, we felt good about it. This JPA is working. The last piece that I want to touch on, and I think it's how I speak to my cohorts. I don't want to call it mission creep. We've listed like what core funds qualify for, what D-space and local funds qualify for. We left it wide open, right? So we can be creative. And a lot of us have been creative and a lot of us have learned from each other to go, that's a really good idea. Let's do it. It's efficient, it's effective, let's try it. A couple things that are coming up now from a policy standpoint, from the operations committee to you. One is, we're clearing, fire roads, vegetation management for access. Well, those of you that watch the operations committee, our partners in Marinwood, it wasn't an expensive request, but they're like, we want to do a capital improvement project, a public works project. And if we were to from a policy standpoint do that, that would be problematic for us. When you think about staffing and the great work that Novato and San Rafael are doing, John talked about it in the oversight committee, using the Rangers, it's really creative. And you're right. It's San Rafael. It meets the criteria. You're being creative in what you are doing, but there's others of us that are looking at that going, clearing a homeless encampment could potentially be a police act. And so if we send our police officers up there to clear something in the hillsides, maybe we can budget $40,000 or whatever. And when you start to think about those decisions that we make, and we're all different. So I'm not saying we can't, it's our decision to make. But as you start to roll up and you get to this conversation today and you're like, we want another $200,000 for the grant program. Well, I'll remind everyone here, there's $4.2 million of unspent monies in D-space, and there's $2.5 million unspent in local in our agencies. If you want to do a grant program and offset, which Mill Valley is going to be considering as we get to Zone 0 and go, what are we doing at this level? We also have some D-space monies. Let's have our own grant program and what we're trying to do. So we all control this conversation. I've been really impressed with MWPA staff. They're just outstanding. And the fire chiefs have been really collaborative and going, let's be more efficient. So when you think about D-space now, and I gave you that 48% to 51% that we're staffing up, there's ways in D-space and vegetation management specialists that we can actually start to partner through MWPA or the county just to be more efficient and effective to continue to control cost and do things consistently in the county. And that's what you'll start to see next year in the year after. So my point is, it's pretty thought out. I'm really proud of all of us in this room. We're not going to solve everything every year, but we need to start checking the boxes as we go to solve some of the issues. So insurance, chipper program, we're really close, I think, on having the data and the ability to attack grants. I'll tell you next year, though, if we are going zone zero, we're going to also have to look internally within our local and D-space funds to offset that with unspent monies and be creative. It's going to take all of us. So it's a long way of saying, there are so many eyes on this JPA-wide and rightfully so budget. I'm comfortable and I'm proud to recommend that to you. I would never approve something, and I know the operations committee would not do it, or Mark and staff, if we couldn't explain it in any forum. And it's something I can explain and I feel confident in, and I highly support us to do this. And again, I think, moving forward though, it's the last year of the contract. We're going to continue to look at this budget. This is a placeholder for Fire Safe Marin. We've asked them, don't necessarily hire staff yet until we get to that RFP process. There's still decisions to be made. It could be sole source. It could be an RFP. That'll be for this board to decide. But we're going to continue to vet that and bring it to you. And really the goal is don't lose momentum. And become a mature agency like we all can. So I think we're making major strides, and I'm proud of this budget and the work that we're doing, and I'll stop there. Thanks.
Great, appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that everyone has done over the last couple of weeks. I know there's been a lot of questions that have been raised by many of us, including me, around how we got to this point. And so I think it does bring up some additional questions and ideas, but I'm curious to hear if there's questions from the group. Comments? Dennis?
Yeah, Todd, I just want to ask you a question. I wasn't at the XCOM committee, but I watched the video. And I think you mentioned that you weren't done working with the work plan for actually Fire Safe Marin, that this would be kind of a placeholder. And I want to just not put words in your mouth, but that's what I heard. I thought I heard. And so it meant to me that, and actually this is probably correct, we shouldn't even be talking about Fire Safe Marin in this budget. We should be talking about it's an educational line item and not specifically who's going to do the work, because to me that it may be inappropriate even to be talking about a sole source doing this work, and I see this more as a line item. But I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but I sort of understood that you weren't through working through their work plan either to make sure that it was something that you could support long term. And that's what I heard.
Sure, it was, and I'm going to say Chief Weber wasn't at the meeting to run a blocker for me, so I'm going to give it to him in a second. But yes, absolutely. So again, we looked at this in high level. Hey, what are we asking you to do as a vendor, right? And what is it going to take for you to deliver that? And that's how we came to this budget number. And then the question was, we're continuing to vet the work plan, which Chief Weber will talk to you. And so we're going to have a number of decision points going into the first 6 months of the fiscal year. And, we could build something in where we report out to the board. So this isn't an end all be all. There's still opportunities for change.
Thanks, Supervisor Chair. So yeah, through robust discussion, what we agreed upon was that we need to develop an RFP to reflect. And in this case, and in this budget, Fire Safe Marin has responded to our requests, right? This is their response to our requests of what we think we need, especially with Zone Zero and some of the other stuff that was articulated. What we also recognize is we are now in that mature point of relationship as a JPA, and a lot was done very quickly. And we're at the point now where we need to revisit some of those things. And the commitment from the ops was, let's work through these summer months, have an offsite. And I think this is a symptom of that maturing. It's not necessarily the core issue. We need to look at how we're doing things, and everybody had to stand up things relatively quickly. And we probably have some redundancy that could be centralized across the board so we can use our funds more effectively. And what we've committed to with the work group, which was some city managers and fire chiefs, was let's draft a solid RFP for what we need. Let's look at what services could be retained internally with MWPA, what needs to be outsourced to a provider that does public education and outreach. And the other programmatic things that we think we could have some synergy around centralizing. And so that is the commitment from the ops group as we work through this. I think what's in front of you today reflects our request as an organization to move forward public education and outreach, knowing that we're really challenged breaking through to people to open those reports, take action. I think, Director Hilliard mentioned, did I see something in the IJ? Well, the IJ is one function of press, and so many people are so connected to social media and other outlets. It really is something that, we need a vendor to be able to do well with. And, so I think, as Todd articulated very well, unanimous decision to move this budget in front of you, I think reflects that. But the conversation that's been had here probably will be had here in a few minutes. And what we've had is very similar. And I think I'm seeing a lot of heads nod that, yes, we're a maturing organization. I think Mr. McCauley, brought up some other things that are just a symptom of rapid growth, young. Now it's time to mature and answer some of these questions.
Great. Let's go, Catherine. Yes, please.
Thank you. I've been a member of this board since the beginning, 5 years ago, and as many of you in this room have as well. And I can remember very, very vividly when we talked about our challenges at the beginning, and there was a communication committee, I believe. And I think, Bruce, you were on that committee, and quite a few of us, and we said, the key point right now that we have to achieve is communication. Communication, communication, communication. Because at that time, there were all of these kind of different factors going on. There was Fire Safe Marin, there was MWPA, there was, the chiefs, et cetera, et cetera. And now we finally have coalesced around that and we've become successful. So my point is it's still a priority, communication, whatever methods we use. So I'm very supportive of the increase of budget for Fire Safe Marin or whoever we decide to go with.
Great, thank you. Yep, Catherine.
Thank you so much for your presentations, and I apologize for coming in a little bit late. I just wanted to say that I'm feeling really confident and just grateful to be a part of this board and get front row seats to all of the action. I feel cooler just being in this room with all of you. But one of the things that I wanted to just point out is I loved our review of the financial numbers and would love to see that more consistently in our board meetings. I know we do tend to gloss over it, but just having it laid out and seeing exactly line for line where the money is going is really helpful. And I also just, for you both and perhaps Mark, if you could enlighten us with what is keeping you up at night with regards to our strategic plan as it is today, and what excites you about the road map ahead. So being from Muir Beach, I don't, obviously I'm very supportive of any funds going to the coastal regions, but I also acknowledge that we have high density challenges in town. We need to address those first. So many of us are patiently waiting for those funds to come through and to increase over time. So I just wanted to put that in there as well, but perhaps you could speak to those quick points because I'm very curious to know. Thanks.
You want to do that first?
Zone zero is what keeps me awake at night right now. And the need for zone zero and how we're going to convince our residents that zone zero is required or necessary. What makes me excited though is our systems approach, starting with the house out approach. And when we get our residents to engage in zone zero, good fire smart landscaping, home hardening, safe evacuation routes, and community buffers, otherwise known as shaded fuel breaks. And we have wildfires and people go, rather than panicking during the wildfire, they go, that was a healthy fire. That's what that's the answer to that question for me.
Great. Julie? Oh, yeah, please, sorry. Sure, please. Yeah, Chief?
Todd and I both have kids, I think teenagers, so that keeps us up at night. But what we're thinking about while we're up, you know, a lot of it is just we're not making the impact with the residents that we need to see action. So I think we're scratching the surface. They're hearing it. They're starting to understand it, but they're not taking those bites out of the apple that we need yet. We need to have 80% of the homes as a target with solid defensible space and some level of home hardening to really, you know, affect resiliency that will, you know, allow fire to hit a community and not turn into a conflagration. And so I think that needs to be our continued effort and emphasis is how do we get the public to turn on, to listen, and to take action. And that should be our laser focus as we move forward. You know, and Zone Zero is a tool that will help us get there. But you know, if our compliance rate right now, our opening rate on an inspection is 50%, and of those 50%, you know, X numbers, I don't want to throw out bad stats, but are taking action, we're not where we need to be. And that keeps me up at night because it's that action that is going to make the difference.
Julie?
So I just have a couple points. I think first of all, if Fire Safe Marin or educational line item doesn't spend all the money will roll over into the next year. So we have to have confidence in who we're asking to do the work, that they're going to do the work responsibly. To me, it kind of all boils down to trust. We trust that Fire Safe Marin has done a great job. We trust that the ATC has vetted this proposal very thoroughly. We trust the fire chiefs and the city managers at the ops committee. We trust the staff. And based on the terrific, tremendous track record that Fire Safe Marin has done, I completely trust that they're going to do a fantastic job. And I do agree with Catherine that it's all about communication. We experienced recently in the town of Ross a big challenge with the closure of our fire station. And there's been so much misinformation floating around. And it's emphasized to me that communication is critical and we need to control that message. We can't let other people control that message. And it's really hard to put a price tag on that and to do it well. And especially with Zone Zero, it's so important. So I'm all for going ahead with this line item.
Catherine? Yep.
So I really heard a lot of good information here today. One of the things as a member of this board is I only have two jobs. One is fiduciary, the other is policy. And so allowing us to take this deep dive into somebody else's work program is really helpful to me. My concern was that we don't pit one against the other, that we have money. We're not taking away from West Marin needs in order to bolster public education. The two grand jury findings that created us was, as fire districts and cities, we don't talk to each other well enough and get the message out, which is all about communication. And then the next thing is that we have enough for public information. As far as Fire Safe Marin, I think they were here before we were. And so as far as mission creep, sometimes they developed in their history relationships with local jurisdictions. So I'm not necessarily blaming us as Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority for asking them to do our work as a county-wide organization. It is a relationship between cities, special districts, and Fire Safe Marin. They are excellent. There's no question about that. So what I hear that I think, and I think Supervisor Rodoni said, is there's flexibility. I'm not, by approving this budget, I'm not saying we're locked into this. We can do mid-course corrections. We can see what's going on. Am I correct in that, Mark?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that takes care of my concerns pretty much, that we have this opportunity to do both So that's it for me.
Barbara?
I have two comments. One, I'm definitely supportive of the public education component and increasing the budget. I think that knowing Todd Lando for a long time and Rich Shortall, their budget before MWPA was 40,000 a year, and they accomplished a huge amount on so little. I think that through this process, potentially things could be subbed out to others, not necessarily always Fire Safe Marin. So we kind of spread the wealth, because this knowledge that we're imparting is important for our neighbors, for California. So I think there could be some changes where potentially in the future they sub out a few of these projects so other companies can start getting the basis of information. But I actually have a big question about JPA-wide proposals that isn't here. And I know this is not something that our taxpayers would love. But have we ever considered developing a model ordinance on enforcement? So a friend of mine lived in the Oakland Hills up until recently, and after the fire, they were inspected, and if you didn't clear your property, you got your first citation, which was, I think, $100. Then they would come back. And I think we ought to think about something. I mean, you know, it's not going to be a popular item, and local jurisdictions can decide whether or not they want to adopt something like that. But one of the things you can do is something I did at the Air District with wood smoke enforcement, which, by the way, was completely unpopular. I got many death threats, and so did my staff. But we did the first citation, could have been $100, or you could take an online education course, which I actually wrote, with the goal being that people should learn, not and people took it. And it wasn't, they could be sitting there reading the regs. We didn't care. We wanted them to learn about the program. So I think we ought to consider taking the bite at that apple and starting to develop a model ordinance that's softer than maybe where I would want to go. But if it keeps Mark up at night, Zone Zero, and it keeps you guys up at night beyond your teenagers, how are we going to get people to start taking us seriously? I know I talked to Julie, and people spent a fortune on their landscaping. They don't get it. If there's a fire that comes through, then they're not even going to think that it was their landscaping. So Chief Weber, I'm putting you on the hot seat, because I think we're going to have to bite this bullet, and I think we can do it in a soft way.
A good future item for the Ops Committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is we have pretty well aligned ordinances now across the county. Fire chiefs just met about Zone Zero. We intend to recommend to all of you as policymakers an ordinance across the county for consistency. And, you know, what she mentioned, the abatement money in D-Space, we actually had funds originally anticipated that would be an abatement group, and every single organization has different abatement policies that, you know, how you go through that. And so that didn't become a reality about centralizing those. But we hear you, and I think, as the chair mentioned, probably a good future discussion item.
Okay, so it might be something coming out from the fire chiefs, which might be better than coming out from Marin Wildfire. But thank you so much. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief Weber.
Anyone else on comments on education, marketing, area direction? I'll just wrap and say that this has been a good discussion. It is a board policy discussion on how we use our funds from a marketing, where we want to put them in the bucket, right? How much marketing is needed, what needs to be part of that. Fire Safe Marin and how we directed that, you know, for 5 years has managed to provide awareness and consistent communication and messaging. And that's been critical to the community, because we've been able to saturate. And the question is right now, is that saturation getting the results? And I think what we're hearing over and over is, how do we tie any bit of education, communication, marketing, plus having that one-on-one contact with a resident? that is what's helping to facilitate really, in my mind, getting that work done. And we need to strike, what is that right balance in terms of that tie-in? Because no matter how much advertising, how much we push out, and I've worked many times in marketing areas, it's a never-ending hole. We can constantly be putting more funding and more funding into it, but there has to be there's that saturation point, and then we're not getting the results. And we want to get the results, and the result is going to become to how do we deliver on Zone Zero? And so I would really, highly support, I support as these projects and as you're working through the work plan, it's a little bit backwards for us to be funding without actually knowing what we're getting in terms of those specific deliverables. We know the areas of areas that were worked on, but are we really, is it another video that's going to drive direct results? Is it another ad campaign going to drive direct results, or is it something else? And that's where I would say, developing that work plan for our marketing, education, communication to be very tight, and it ties to whatever the funding piece is, because right now it's a little bit loose. And so that would be my comments around that. And Bruce, I see you want to make a comment.
Yeah, thanks for that comment, Rachel. Let's put this all in context that it took us a couple of years to get our feet under us. We developed a strategic plan. There are 5 objectives. Public outreach and education is objective number 4. While we've been busy on defensible space and home hardening and vegetation management and modeling and teaching people, the tools that we have to be strategic at the least cost, get the best results. This is the one goal that we have not talked about metrics and monitoring. We haven't talked about the measurables. So you're asking a question ahead of its time. But as I look at the work that's been done here, and Todd, thank you, your presentation, Jason, the gnarly, grind that you go through and bringing 17 members together to talk about vegetation management, defensible space, and home hardening, who needs what, and the work that we're doing on ingress and egress. Fire Safe Marin and Mark and team have been slowly at work with Fire Safe Marin, tasking this out. And I look at this proposal and I see the 17 deliverables, and none of which can I say aren't critical. The question is as far as what outcome we get. We haven't yet posed that question. And I think that's the question for us to pose. Today the ingress and egress group met, but we have some work to do as a board. And to work with professionals to answer that question. But I am very happy with the project, the deliverables, the fact that it's one of the 5 objectives that we've identified. And I think the words that we used was an informed public makes informed decisions. And that's what we're trying to do here. And it's Fire Safe Marin that's doing it. We don't have public information here. Secondly, LA fires this year have brought me to tears in public meetings. And the response that we're seeing as a board, and I think Mark and team, and I've heard that the requests for information, the quest for presence, the quest for clarity, they come in, and we don't have staff to do that work. And Fire Safe Marin has gone everywhere asked to. They set up the tent, they produce the materials, and they deliver. And I'm very proud of what we've done, where we are. We have a lot of work to do. But I just want to, state my strong support for the work that's been done, the line items, the objectives that have been developed, and I strongly support this project and the whole work plan. My God, it's just how many pages? Could it be 300 pages next year, please?
Yeah, it's 323. Yeah. All right. Okay. Anything else on the work plan?
There is. But we're to use Todd's word, we're through the slog.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we've made it through, I think, the most complicated issues related to the work plan. And so the next part is smooth sailing. So let's sail on. we're going to talk about zone proposals. And again, we have over 130 proposals in the portal and in the work plan document. And so we'll just be hitting these at a very high level, just so you're aware of what each of the zones have been proposing. Very briefly, in the central Marin zone, things are business as usual. So the same proposals you've seen in previous years, you'll see again this year. No new projects. This zone is humming along. In terms of local and D-space proposals, we're looking at support for inspections. There are small-scale invasive vegetation treatment program activities in most of the jurisdictions, and a voluntary abatement program in some of the jurisdictions as well. Core proposals continue to be vegetation management along evacuation routes, the inspection program, work on Camp Tamarancho, which this board approved last year, and the Greater Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break. The new and improved version of the work plan that is attached to the online agenda includes figures at the end. Still some tweaks with at least one of the zones for those figures before we post online, but I wanted to note, if you want to follow along, I don't have a little electronic bell to ring for each page that we will change as we go, but on page 17 of the work plan, that's where Central Marin Zone proposals are. And
I have a question on
Please.
Central Marin.
Mhm.
It's okay if I ask now. Two things. Number one is the Greater Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break proposed to be finished this year, this coming fiscal year. And the second thing is there's a core proposal for Camp Tamarancho. And other than about a few feet of a road, the project is not in Fairfax, it's in the county of Marin. So I'm wondering why it's under Central Marin. Perhaps people don't know that Camp Tamarancho is not in Fairfax. So, and I noticed that Jordan Reeser from the counties attested to that. So I think there might be confusion because it's really close to Fairfax, but I'm just wondering why it's not in the county core projects.
So the Marin County Fire Department has pockets of jurisdiction in all 5 zones.
Right.
So by definition, where Camp Tan Rancho is in the central zone.
Okay, except for it says a partner is Fairfax. How can we be a partner when it's not our property? I mean, maybe that's just a typo. Okay, and then this,
We could delete that from the proposal if you
it's
prefer.
fine. I mean, I just wondered, thank you for that explanation. And are we going to finish that Greater Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break this year, please?
In the planning and program manager's report that is later on in the agenda, I do have a map showing where work areas are for this year. And no, we will not be able to finish it this year. I'm sorry.
Darn it, we're so close.
We're still
Thank
going.
you.
Yes. Okay, so moving
Okay,
on.
I'm sorry. I think
Please.
we're getting a general request to take a bit of a break. We've been
Sure.
here
3 hours.
3 hours.
Mhm.
So if you've not had a chance to take a break, I think let's try to take a 5-minute break before, and then we'll continue on with West Marin.
Sounds great.
There are snacks.
And if I may, I don't know that we need to grind through every single project. I mean, we have everything in front of us. We've reviewed this. I mean, I think for time's sake, we might want to at some point consider, are there any questions or comments or modifications as opposed to grinding through it? I'm not what your intent is, Ann, but I've been through this. Bingo. You know, yes, you know what I'm trying to say.
The same mind on that.
That's
pointing out what's new.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So tedious.
Good job, Mom.
It's not necessary. Just anything with controversy, discuss.
Right.
Everything else, just assume that people have come prepared, they've read the packet, if they have any questions.
Yeah,
it's on
this
them
is,
to ask.
this is it's incumbent upon us to have gone through this and I know what's happening in Otto. I spun through this.
Right.
I hear what's going on.
Right.
And who am I?
That's my
Due to interest in time,
We have 8.
we are regrouping now, and we're going to try to wrap in about 10 minutes for some critical. The work plan, it was in your packet. It's been online. It's not different than what, I don't believe there's been any changes. And we'll just cover any specific changes to pay attention to. And hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to meet with their areas ops lead and ATC reps to go through the details of their work plan. Anne?
Perfect, thank you. Yes, all of these proposals, the zone-specific proposals included, have been discussed in public meetings previously. The ATC, all of the member agencies, and publicly at the Operations Committee. So for the sake of time, we'll skip through those overview slides. I do want to mention Mill Valley had some requested changes just in the last 24 hours. So some projects, proposals, positions, staffing positions have changed a little bit. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, or Todd Cusimano if you have any questions about why. But those changes have been incorporated into the version that is available online and public now. The proposals have also been publicly, through the portal, publicly available for a month or two online also. So plenty of opportunity to review. I'm going to just show one of the pie charts here just to show where we landed in terms of dollars and the different goals. This is goals 1 through 5 and where the overall budget falls. So feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to see more pie charts, or you want to know more about what's included in each of these. These can be quite useful when talking about, how we support the house out approach. We put resources towards home hardening and defensible space, as well as the things that get attention, like those large vegetation management projects. So that leaves us, skipping way ahead, that leaves us with action that we can take today. So our recommendation to the board is to vote to adopt a resolution approving the work plan. And what does this do? This acknowledges the local and DSpace proposals. Funding for these is distributed directly to the member agencies to manage. This also approves core proposals, when those core proposals requiring environmental review would require further board action to acknowledge the completion of environmental compliance and then to distribute funding. And that's what's on the table today.
And to answer a procedural question from Director Molesworth regarding the moving 300,000 of restricted reserves into the West Marin project, we would just need to make that part of the motion.
Okay. All right, any other just direct questions for Anne?
The discussion around grants and the reserve, I don't know that there was any kind of a consensus around augmenting the grant program if there was a need, but I suggested that if the grant program is depleted quickly, that we allow our leadership, Mark and Ann, and team to consider moving some of that $900,000 now available from our reserves into the grant program.
We would
And
bring it to the board as a action item.
if that's something
Yes.
that we would consider.
We would bring it to the board as an action item.
Okay. We do need to open up to public comment this time. If there's any hands?
If there are any members of the public who would like to speak on the current item, the work plan on the agenda, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. And it looks like we do have one comment. Go ahead, Chief Lindo.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We
Yes,
can hear
thank
you,
you.
sir.
Good, thanks. All right, so Todd Lando, I want to speak up to strongly support the proposed Fire Safe Marin budget line. I realize you're voting on a package. And I want to be clear, I'm speaking from my role at Central Marin Fire as our wildfire mitigation specialist, and not just the current president at Fire Safe Marin. First, I want to point out that we're talking about Fire Safe Marin as though they only touch on or deliver on one of the MWPA's 5 goals, public education, but I don't think that's true. Their work impacts each of the 5 core goals in the organization. So, yes, it's a 30% increase, but it's not because Fire Safe Marin's asking for more for itself. I think, Todd Cusimano made that clear, and Mark Brown. The increase matches the steep growth in what MWPA and its members, which are us, are asking Fire Safe Marin to deliver. And then using the term vendor or sole source to describe Fire Safe Marin's relationship with MWPA is really almost a mischaracterization. It borders on injustice, I think. It was said earlier, and it's true, that this is a founding partner. Fire Safe Marin was one of the 2 organizations in the room with the county administrator when the concept was developed. They're asking to scale services to meet mission critical needs that we asked for. As Mark pointed out, that the Fire Safe Marines never initiated a request for increased funding. It's reflected in this year's proposed budget of the MWPA is not a Fire Safe Marin budget increase. It's the cost of delivering an expanded scope of work for MWPA. So Fire Safe Marin is an independent nonprofit. Additional programs, they have additional programs, additional funding sources outside of MWPA, but we need to be clear that they don't fund any work. MWPA doesn't fund any work at Fire Safe Marin that doesn't directly benefit MWPA and our member agencies. There was talk about the other contracts receiving COLAs, and I think that's important, but this ask is in line with the increased demands that we've asked for.
Got about 40 seconds left on your
Okay,
comments there.
so I'll wrap up here, and I know everybody probably really wants to go home, but I just there've been suggestions like reallocating funds from grant programs. I think those things sound good, but the grant recipients are already positioned to act. We've evaluated those programs, and what we found is that it's education that reaches the 95% of homeowners who never applied for a grant but got the work done anyway. That's the majority of the work happening in the county. So, it's not just marketing. This is really how we execute our mission. So I just urge you all to fully fund this proposal and take some time outside of these board meetings to work with Fire Safe Marin, to meet with Fire Safe Marin, talk to the MWPA staff, and look closely at how much information has made an impact on your community. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you for your comment. Any other public comments?
There are no further hands at this time.
Okay.
I'd like to move to adopt the FY 2025-26 work plan with the change, taking 300,000 out of reserves to add to the West Marin work, and fully support the proposal for the public education.
I second.
Right. We need to do a roll call vote.
That was a motion by Director Kohler with seconds from both Director McMillan and Director Donahue. So that clears us to go into vote, starting with Bolinas.
Aye.
Mill Valley.
Aye.
Larkspur.
Yeah, aye.
County of Marin.
Aye.
Inverness.
Aye.
Kentfield. Muir Beach.
Aye.
Novato.
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow. Southern Marin. Stinson Beach. Town of Corte Madera. Fairfax.
Yes.
Ross. San Anselmo. And City of San Rafael.
Yes.
And that is a unanimous vote of all currently in attendance at this point in the meeting.
We are now moving on to the budget. Very good.
The bad news is we have to go through $22 million budget. The good news is you guys just did the lion's share of the work. I will be quick. I will do my best not to make you dizzy as I scroll through our budget on here. I'm going to start at the top. The good thing about square footage per property building space tax, it's easy to project revenue. We take last year's, add to 2.7%, and that's how we end up with 22 million plus 200,000 gives us a 22,838. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. We take 60% of that, take 10% of that 60%, and that makes our admin budget of 1.37 million. We've worked through all of the line items. We're getting really good at projecting our administrative costs, since we are, as everyone's loving to say, a mature organization now. Moving up, our local mitigation is very easy, 20% of 22 million. And we have the disbursements all set up. D-Space, 20%. Again, no abatement any longer. So the full 20% is going to the member agencies. And then this is what we just spent the last hour plus talking about, is this core budget right here. Everything we talked about is coalesced and categorized in these. So you actually just approved this portion of it. So now all we're approving is the overall budget. And with that, I'll take any questions and stop the screen share.
Any questions, Catherine?
It's a comment. Thank you, Elisa Schiffman, for doing this excellent work. We just heard the Community Oversight Committee say that the way that you keep records made it simple for them to go through everything. And they congratulated you, I don't know if you were here to hear it, on what's going on. And I think, you know, in the background, we don't always see you, but thank you so much.
Any other questions, comments? Public comment?
There are no hands for comment.
Motion, please.
I move.
Second.
And that's
Sorry,
a
we had a
motion.
first from Catherine.
That's a motion by Director Hilliard with a second from Director, was that Rodoni or Goins? Director Goins, to approve the budget, starting with roll call. Bolinas,
Aye.
Mill Valley,
Aye.
Santa Fe,
Aye.
Larkspur,
Aye.
County of Marin,
Aye.
Inverness,
Aye.
Kentfield,
Aye.
Muir Beach,
Aye.
Novato,
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow,
Aye.
Southern Marin.
Aye.
Vincent Beach is no longer here with us. Corte Madera, not here. Fairfax,
Yes.
Ross,
Aye.
San Anselmo.
Yes.
There's also a unanimous vote of all currently in attendance.
Thank you. Yay. Sorry, that was a bit rushed. Yes.
Sorry, I should have asked this in the questions. Did we need to incorporate the move of the 300,000 in the motion for the budget approval as well?
That was included for the core budget.
Yeah, but okay, so
By
it was
doing it
reflected in
core,
that
we did
budget.
it for that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And thank you to everyone who is now leaving. We are just doing informational updates now. So if you do need to leave, that is fine. I don't believe we need to have a quorum. And we will go ahead and move forward. Yeah? Okay. Sorry, that felt a bit rushed there. The good news is we've been talking about this for the whole year. So it shouldn't be a surprise.
All right, staff reports, finance.
Oh, it's different from Southern Marin's. Good afternoon, directors. I picked the wrong meeting to attend in person. Everyone wants to go home now. I wanted to acknowledge and thank John McCauley for coming out of retirement and all the countless hours he spent offering his high-level perspective. It was very helpful, and so I appreciate him for doing that. And so then I'll be brief. As of May 9th, we're 85% through the year. So that's noted at the top of the report. And then anything that's higher than 85% is highlighted in red. It doesn't mean that that's going to be a problem. And we offer notes like final or any reason why it might be over. The tax disbursements are 95% in, but they are coming in over budget. So therefore our D-Space and local pass-through monies are also higher than we budgeted. And I will leave it at that if anyone has any questions.
Any questions on our finance report, Dennis?
Yeah, Alicia, thank you for the report. Just one thing that came up today, it might be helpful if you would point us to where we see the account balances. or quarterly report on them, so that I knew we have carryover is what I understand. Having some sort of a summary of that would be helpful, quarterly or whenever appropriate. Or maybe you do show that somewhere and I just haven't found it.
Do you mean like the core unspent or core unspent and local unspent, like was outlined in the COC report? Okay, that's interesting. I'll work on that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I would just say, for the core, that's relatively easy for us. We have a project tracking sheet. It's for local and Z space, we get that information on an annual basis.
Any public comment?
There are no hands at this time.
Okay. All right. So we don't need a motion on this one. Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right. Work plan. You're back again.
I have about 100 slides here, so just bear with me. I'll take about 1 minute and then maybe attach these slides with Martina's help to the agenda so that you can dig in further if you'd like. Just a quick note, Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break, wanted to highlight this, especially since Barbara Kohler asked. We're going to be working in the Kentfield area this year. We have folks going out and collecting right to enter forms right now to get things moving. In the Novato Shaded Fuel Break, we're working in these general areas. Last couple of years. What's that? Oh, gosh darn it. All right. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. That's it. Nope. Yep. There it is. Okay. So we're working in the Kentfield area this season on the Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break, finishing up some work in Fairfax. In Novato, we're working in these oval areas. We've been working, Marin Wildfire has been working in these areas the last couple of years, going to keep filling in the gaps in these areas. Did some pile burning late April, went quite smoothly. Want to keep sharing photos of pile burns near homes and how safely it can be done. In the San Rafael San Anselmo Fuel Reduction Zone project, work is continuing on the hillside east of the cemetery facilities. Continue working in that area. We're seeing really nice results in terms of native plants coming up in areas where we've been removing the non-natives. We're also seeing higher bird biodiversity in areas that have been treated using acoustic monitoring, and we'll have more information for you about that in the future. Mirror Beach, we were able to do some work on non-federal land and had one of our VMSs, Ted Briggs, in the room, support this project out in the field. A lot of coordination with Caltrans and a lot of work with Mirror Beach folks. And that's it for me, and I'll attach these slides to the agenda with Martina's help.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Anne on the work plan? Any public comments?
There are no hands at this time.
Okay, no motion is needed on this item. And committee reports. Fire Safe Marin?
The Fire Safe Marin report was attached, and you can reach out to us if you have any questions about it.
Okay, great. Operations Committee.
You pretty much got that update with the work plan proposal.
All right. Lower informational items on the agenda. If there's any?
A reminder that May 31st is our date to receive letters of intent for president and vice president, so please send them to me. We also wanted to highlight the great work of the Ecologically Sound Practices Partnership and that staff report in there, and the extensive level of engagement and events that have been hosted in partnership with ESP.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. And then any items for a future agenda?
Just from staff, one notice is that it was identified that the third Thursday of June is Juneteenth. And so we are recommending moving the June board meeting to June 26th.
We'll do a poll to make sure we can get a quorum for June 26th.
I have a suggestion for next year's budget work plan meeting. Maybe we need 2 meetings to break them up so that we can delve deeply and then come back like the following week. Thank you.
Yes. Exactly. All right, good. All right, I think that we are set. We will now adjourn. Thank you. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you.